there. Hey, yes, yes. Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you for saying hello.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to our City of Palm Coast City Council business meeting this evening. Today is Tuesday, March the 5th, 2024. It's 6 p.m. and we are in the community wing of City Hall. I would ask that you please stand and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. Following the pledge, you're welcome to remain standing for a moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or pause for a moment. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I thank you all. Please be seated. And I would ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mayor Alfin.
Present.
Vice Mayor Danko.
Here.
Councilmember Hyder.
Present.
Councilmember Clufus.
Present.
Councilmember Pontieri.
Present.
All members are present.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda this evening is the public participation. In order for city staff to be able to respond to your questions or concerns, please fill out a comment card with your contact information. The comment cards can be found on the table near the agendas or available from the communications and marketing director seated in the back of the room with a hand up. Anyone wishing to speak may approach the podium, provide their name, and may speak for up to 3 minutes. Please direct all comments to the mayor, be concise and to the point. Avoid delaying or interrupting the proceedings, and do not make any irrelevant, impertinent, or slanderous comments. Any person who becomes disorderly may be barred from making any additional comments and may be removed. Just in advance of our public comments, City Manager, you have a note to get us started this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just had a announcement for City Council tonight. Most of you received a package in front of you on the desk, and that is a package to evaluate the firms that were interested in providing an educational awareness specific to the forensic audit and the scope of services that might entail. So just want to make you aware of that. The deadline is March 18th to get back to me.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
So with that, I would open the meeting up for public comment for items now that are not on the agenda going forward. So are there any members of the public that would like to comment to me and City Council at this time? Yes, sir, please come forward.
How you doing? Good evening. My name is Michael Culler.
Sir, and I just so the folks that are listening online can hear. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. I was here. I had a couple of concerns. I was out at the pond fishing, and I saw pink eggs, which are considered the island or the snails, which is very invasive and causes a lot of eco damage. Am I allowed to speak about this at this time?
If you could pull the mic closer to you.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to bend. Pull
Okay.
it closer to, there you go, thank you.
All right, this is my first day, I apologize. So, as I said, there's pink eggs out there in the pond. I had called the city previous because I saw that royal palms. The pink eggs are part of the island snails, which is very invasive and it does a lot of damage to the ecosystem. And we have a lot of waterways that we want to protect and keep beautiful in the city. And I was asking, because a couple of years ago I came and I presented if we can provide access for kayak ramps. We have hundreds of ponds and waterways. It would be awesome if we can have some kind of basic system to allow us to use the water systems, especially for kayaks. I'm an avid kayaker. I have a nonprofit. We take first responders and military veterans who suffer from PTSD on kayak fishing trips. We travel all over the world. So we've been blessed to do this. So we have a great water system here in the city, which can bring a lot of revenue instead of people having to go out to other towns, other cities, other counties. So I was seeing is there anything we could do? Like I said, I presented it, it's simple. I have a couple examples. You have Hawk Creek that has an easy kayak ramp access. We have Long Creek, that's easy. I know you just built a $1 million+ facility at Waterfront. It's beautiful. Again, I'm not here to slander anybody, but it's not practical because if you would like, I could demonstrate. You take a 13-foot kayak to the kayak ramp. There's no way to utilize the ramps and the easy accessories to get the kayak in the water. So if you would like any help or any assistance, there's a lot of things we can do to adjust to make it user-friendly, that more people can utilize the park, and we can actually expand water access across the city very economically friendly, that doesn't blow up the budget, and just use basic utensils like sand, gravel, and there's a lot of things we could do for the city that could bring a lot of people in and help businesses grow, and hotels. People will come all over just to fish our waterways. So that's what I have to say.
Very good, thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
My name is Celia Puglisi, and I live in Palm Coast since 1991. Thank you for letting me speak. First of all, I want to bring on the open here an email that I sent to our excellent city clerk and copy to the council, mayor, and our manager regarding the concern that we have for our walkers, joggers, and public usage of the North St. Joe walkway, because once past north of under the Hammock Dunes Bridge, there were like new 20 signs of a company which is owned by the Marlows. We love the Marlows here in Flagler County. They're the owners of the Green Lion, and they're great people. But looks like their LLC have posted several signs of not trespassing. This is a public walkway. When they bought the land in 2016, the walkway was there. We are using that walkway before we incorporated in Palm Coast. And I am a witness of that when I spoke with Mr. former and late Mr. Jerry Fool, which rallied us so we would not lose under the county commission the walkway along the intracoastal waterway. This is our intracoastal waterway. It's very important that we walk there, we jog, and we preserve it to us. It's the connection to all the paths in Palm Coast. So this, what is the reason for these signs? We need an answer. We have many people walking there are concerned. So I am concerned as well. We lost enough things, Palm Coasters, when we lost ITT, because the county took away things from us, and we should not, like the waterfront pool on where is today Bobby Gins. We had a pool there with membership affordable, and we had a waterfront pool for Palm Coaster. We lost it. So it's like we cannot lose any more things. It's like the Belter pool that is used by the people on that section of Palm Coast through membership. We cannot lose that. The people need these items. They were promised to us by ITT, so I want the city to preserve that. One other thing, right now, I want to know what's the status of the second meeting with the airport director, Mr. Roy Seeger, when he was here. I know our good councilwoman Pontieri had quite a few questions he didn't answer, like, for example, hey, he doesn't know how many of all the thousands of touch and goes and operations there are touch and goes from the worldwide students, pilots in the schools there. He didn't know that, and some other answers. We need to have those answers. We need to have the second meeting. And one other thing, what is happening with Florida Park Drive? We are getting nowhere. These people with the traffic is horrible. They were promised, stop signs, the 2 islands that were promised, and we spent $163,000. We need that. Please do those things.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Sorry. Good evening. My name is Heather Davis, 66 Parati Lane. It is March 5th, 2024. I still have a house on a hill next to my home. It reminds me every day that my privacy will no longer exist once it is occupied. I clearly remember the days begging them to not pour the concrete, begging the city to not approve it. Here we are now, 8 months later, still begging for this injustice to stop. There were so many chances for this to be avoided, and yet none were taken advantage of. This has consumed our lives since the lot was cleared by accident last summer. It continues to consume our lives because it is our greatest financial investment. We no longer get to enjoy our home. We spend time worrying about it. We continue to have meetings about meetings, and yet there is nothing I can do about the house on a hill next to my home. It was approved by Palm Coast, by you. And I also would like to speak in the absence of my husband, Jeremy Davis. His message is pretty clear. Make it make sense. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Candy Stevens, flooded in Flagler, and also P-section resident. I don't know if you guys got it. I gave some information over to Kaylee, some maps, some dated chronological maps for you guys to look at. This is just stuff through the process of flooded in Flagler that we found out, data that we've gathered and then created a map to put it on, so to speak. So I just wanted you to see the progression of the map like I do, so it makes sense kind of why we're at like the alarm right now. I also just wanted to make a note, this stuff takes a long time, the information for us to gather, and then for people to put it in a format that everybody can conceive and look at and understand what you're looking at. So I would like, once you get your Citizens Advisory Council formed, I would like to an invite of myself or a member of my group to come to those meetings to represent the part of the county and city that I have in my group, so we can all exchange information and maybe put it all into one thing. So I would like an invite to those meetings. That way we can all share information like I'm going to try to do with you today. So if you just look at the first map, where we started at, that one was made on 12/20, and we actually only had about 40 some odd homes on the map. And as the word got out and as the media picked up on it, as you guys talked to constituents, the following month, I think we were at maybe 10 or 15 more homes. And then you go another month, and then you come all the way down to January, and now you have probably about 200 on here. Come to today, and we are at 252 homes total, and this is from the data that we have got from you guys and also the data that we have created. We've actually merged it into one database to get the maps so people can see it. It's hard to explain to people what's going on with the drainage in the city by just talking about my house over here, your business over there, and so on and so on. So it's easier for people to understand it when you see it in a map format like this. If you guys look at this, she has a copy for you. All these dots are in the middle of the city. If you come out and you look at this, this is all in the middle of the city, including where we are right now. Radiates at about 8 miles, maybe a few more, give or take. I'm not a scientist, but. So I wanted you to see this with your eyes, because I'm showing you this, and I hope to eventually have some pictures for you from up above, for you to actually see what it looks like. Because we need to start with the infrastructure in this area. We need to work from the inside out, as far as the swells and the drainage goes, and the higher build fixes go. Work from the inside out.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I just want to have our city manager just confirm something for us, which relates to this young lady's question. We do have an application out on the city website, correct, where anyone can fill it out and apply to be on our Citizens Advisory Committee. And my understanding is those committee meetings are in the sunshine, so they will be open to anyone in the public. They don't need an invitation. Is that correct?
Thank you, Vice Mayor, that is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Robert McDonald, Palm Coast. Last weekend, the city had a wonderful, absolutely phenomenal, wonderful event in Town Center. It was free. Now remember, there's going to be key words here, so pay attention. Free. That means it doesn't cost you anything to go. This coming weekend, the city, in their wisdom, decided they're going to have a strawberry festival, like this. The problem is that it's not free. For me to take my family to go to this strawberry festival in Town Center, that's important too, it's going to cost me $28 to walk in the door. What am I going to do? What am I going to get for $28? I'm going to get to look at people trying to sell me strawberries. Well, I'll tell you what, keep this as an inside tip. If you go to Publix right now, we'll sell you strawberries for $4 for this. So if you doubled it, because it's buy one, get one free, okay? So for $7, it's going to cost me to walk in the door to look at strawberries. I can go to Publix and get them for free and take them home and do whatever I want to do with them. So my question is, I would like to know, number one, how and why we charge, well, we're charging vendors to come in and sell strawberries. Where's that money going? Where is all the money going that all the $7 are going to pay for just to walk in the door to maybe, if you're lucky, to smell strawberries? Now, I got another real quick question for you, since I got time here. I went to get my taxes done today at the county building by AARP. For most of you, you're young, so you don't know what that is yet. That's something that takes care of us old-timers. So they get to do the taxes for free. Free. Remember that word, very important. So I said to the woman, how come you're only here 2 days a week? Well, because the community center got the audacity to charge $15 an hour for the tax people who are working for free to come in and have their taxes done. Now, these people are giving up their time, and the city's got the audacity to charge $15 an hour to use that building. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to fill out one of those little coupon requests, and I'm going to request for the last year, I want to know every single solitary organization that used that building, and I want to know if they were charged, because I'm not
Okay.
done with this yet.
Thank you. All right, all right. City Manager, at the end of public comment, if you would explain the upcoming festival and the fees related to it so that there's clarity amongst the public. Yes, sir, please go ahead.
Good evening, Jeffrey Saib. A critical concern of mine as our city goes forward is the ability of the drainage system to do what it was designed and built to do, and that is to drain excess water from city neighborhoods. The swale drainage system built here by ITT in the 1970s replaced the traditional system of drains and drain pipes. Our system worked well, with some exceptions, with a small number of homes and businesses. But now is the true test, and the results are mixed so far. This city cannot function properly with a drainage system in disrepair, as we see from many examples. We can't exist with a system that worked well 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or yesterday. That's all forgotten. The drainage system must be competent enough to take all that our present and future population will require. So that brings us to the situation we are faced today, and unfortunately probably from now on. The existing homes that are being negatively impacted by new homes drainage need relief. However, there are responsible builders and contractors that have observed and will continue to observe city regulations and even their own regulations that are more stringent regarding the foundation height of the new homes relative to existing homes nearby. What they and I advocate is a complete renovation of the entire city's drainage system, starting with the swales and going on from there. Changes may need to be made in the way we look at drainage attributes, such as utilizing the many wetlands we have as drainage and infrastructure resources, rather than what they are seen as now impediments to development. It's a tremendous job, but one we need as we go forward into this wetter environment with more homes, businesses, and up to 25% more water than ever before. As this is something that, if not done on an expedited basis or at all, could result in a dangerous flooding system, we need to do something. Funding resources from the state or federal government may be available, so the taxpayers won't have to shoulder this cost all alone. The council has heard residents' concerns regarding this repeatedly. We all have. Now is the time to act on those concerns together for the benefit of all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, all right. Let's respect the next speaker. Yes, sir, please. Come on up.
Joseph Malisi. I'm here to talk about my son. He's in the landscaping business. He's got a pickup truck and he's got a trailer. And he does, besides landscaping and cutting grass, whatever a person needs that he could possibly do. Seems like code enforcement is following him around. He'll be in the backyard helping to put in a drain for somebody and don't show up to the front to his truck and trailer maybe for 2 hours. So code enforcement right away gives him a warning that he has to move the truck. We get it on our garage door maybe every month or so. The police don't bother him. They understand he needs to make a living. We try to get him a storage bin, $300 and change a month. And I think, and I'm not sure, but I've heard several times that you people, God bless you, that have shares in the storage business, and that's why you will not allow a small truck with a trailer that's looking to help the people of Palm Coast that are having a job done. He's in a hole right now because he owes like $70,000 for equipment, and you people are not giving him a break. I mean, if we wanted an HOA, we would have moved to an HOA. But we don't want to pay somebody to tell us how we gotta live. Get the code enforcement off him. It's not right. He needs to make a living. And I can't get around too good. I'm 84. He comes and helps me, and they give him a warning. God bless you all.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please. Yes, sir. Please.
First on Cimarron Drive. The people on Cimarron Drive, once again, are getting very nervous. We can't walk. We can't get out of the driveways. Continuous speeds. You guys and Greenwald say, oh, you don't need patrol cars down there. Call the problem in when there's a problem, call it in, as speeding. In 2018, 168 tickets. Last year, Spectrum News came down to film this street, and they were shocked what they were seeing. Ormond Beach reached out, tried to reach out to you, said, come to us, we'll talk to you. We've done 21 devices in Ormond, and there's no problem. And I'm not gonna mention the councilman person's name, but last month, they mentioned they were gonna contact Ormond Beach. Guess what? Zero. We're gonna go back to 2011. And this was mentioned to you, Mayor Akron, when me and 3 other people, you asked us to come down because we were the biggest speakers in the city. A woman run down in cold blood off Columbia Drive. The person in charge of the police, the husband, who worked for Flagler County Schools, delayed reporting it officially for 18 hours. That woman got 2 years of jail time. Any one of you, your siblings, your wife, run down in cold blood, and the driver only gets 2 years, and it was reported she was drunk, laying on the street. This city needs to smarten up. There are people moving out left and right. There's very little homeowners on Cimarron. Most of the people have left. Most of the properties are rented out. That's all I got.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Virginia Chalmers.
Pull that mic just a little bit. Thank you.
My name is Virginia Chalmers. Sorry, I'm not used to public speaking. I've lived in Palm Coast for about 14 months now. I live alone, do a couple of loads of laundry a week, run the dishwasher once a week, and I've even taken to timing my showers. The first 11 months that I've lived here, my water bill is $2,521.35. At my previous home, a full 12 months was $1,730, and that is including water, sewer, and trash. When I've called to question why my bills are so high, the usual answer is either you must have a leak somewhere, or yes, there was an increase. I've asked for someone to come out from the water company to check the meter, replace it if need be, and I've been told several times that we just don't do that here. I've paid 2 plumbers independently and 2 irrigation companies to check everything. No leaks, no problems. The water pressure should range between 40 to 70 PSI. The norm for a private residence in between 50 and 60 PSI. Mine is 42, barely in the correct range. I can't even wash my hair in the shower because I can't get the shampoo out. I have, without standing there for 4 or 5 minutes, which is wasting more water. In Palm Coast, people have run their water sometimes 2 to 3 minutes just to get the water hot. That's wasting gallons of water. This seems to be the case in most homes in Palm Coast. I stayed in several while I was waiting for my home to be built, and we all seem to have that problem. Utilities in other areas of the state, and I did check before I moved here. I thought I did my due diligence. I spoke to realtors and friends and family in Sanford, Orlando, Melbourne, Ormond Beach, West Palm, Fort Myers, and Bonita Springs. All have water bills between $30 and $40 a month. A few weeks ago, I left about an inch of water overnight in a cup accidentally. The next morning, I emptied it, and it was red and orange and brown.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can we have this lady reach out to somebody in the back of the room and maybe get someone to check out that water meter? Jason, maybe? Thank you. Ma'am, if you go to the back, one of our staff people should be able to help you on getting that water meter checked.
Next speaker, please. Yes, sir.
Vincent Mazzarella, P section. Tell you what, I live on Point Pleasant, and it's not so pleasant right now. There's a lot of construction, a lot of code violations. In my 2 years of living here, I work as an electrical engineer for RS&H, who does very high-level, multi-million-dollar projects that involve multiple levels of engineering and plans. A project involves a budget, a schedule, a high-level assessment of what needs to be done and how to accomplish it. In this case, we need to identify the addresses affected by the flooding and wait till after the next heavy rain. Then fly a drone, or in this case a plane, over the areas, and we get an aerial map of everything. Then you overlay that aerial map on top of an existing aerial map to see where all the flooding is at. You'll see the contours that are coming through with the water. Once we identify where the water is, we can figure out where the closest drainage is and how to get it to make it flow there. The next step is to regrade, add sod, drainage, piping, and fill in between the high builds and the low builds. Because if you have the high builds going on to the low builds, it's just going to overflow into that. So we need something in between. I would suggest either 2 fences and a drain in between, or storm drain piping that can at least take it out of the area. If we don't do this, when the hurricane comes, and it will come this year because it's El Nino and La Nina effect right now, so if the hurricane comes this year and it's already had a significant amount of rain and the swales are already flooded, there's nowhere for the water to go. We have an impermeable layer of clay underneath the swales that the water just can't percolate through. My house has sunk. The whole swale has sunk in, my yard has sunk into the swale. I don't understand what's going on. How come there's no drainage fix? We were standing here a month ago and you heard everybody's concerns, but nothing's been done. You said a council. A council's going to come in and citizens and is supposed to fix all this stuff. That's not what's going to happen. What we need is an engineering firm or the Army of Corps of Engineers to come in here and assess what's going on and then redirect the water flow. And we really need to get rid of these swales. These swales are such a problem. They're good in the desert, but they're not good in Florida. We have hurricanes, we have storms that last, 9 years ago, there was a storm that lasted an hour and it dumped 4 inches of rain and Palm Coast was flooded. It was the only area in Florida that got flooded out of that whole storm. We've got to do something about this drainage. It's a huge issue. My yard is completely gone. I need $10,000 worth of dirt and sod to regrade it to be a level with the house that's downstream of me. The water cannot flow around the corner, and the thing of going from all the way from the backyard to the front yard, there's no way that that's going to happen. It needs to go from the backyard to the front yard and the backyard to the backyard. In order to drain properly, we need swales behind the houses. The fences are too close. That's what's happening with most people's in the backyard. You have a higher build, and then the water's just coming right in. We need a drainage ditch in between, and we need the drainage to go from the middle of the yards to the back, and from the middle of the yards to the front. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there a next speaker? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I got a couple of things I'd like to discuss real quick.
Just introduce yourself for us for the record.
Absolutely. My name is Leslie. I live in the P section here in Palm Coast. My last name is Johnson. Anyhow, real quick, one of the things that Candy was mentioning is this kind of a map. And if I were, what I have to tell you is we are in the middle, most of us, including City Hall. On the outskirts of all of Palm Coast are community development districts. Now, each of these CDDs pays for its own infrastructure, including stormwater management. And so I'm glad to see that the stormwater issue is not on the agenda for this week. I hope it's not, because it would be very unfair to expect that all of these people in the middle would be responsible for all of that maintenance that needs to be taken care of, and pretty much takes care of everybody, including the water and so on and so forth. And the red lines that you see here, those are the proposed roads for the westward expansion. So they're kind of there, and they're from a map that I pulled off of palmcoast.gov. All right, you ought to know that I am an auditor. I am a medical billing and coding auditor, and one of the things that I do is check facts, figures, statistics, looking for trends. And that's why this map exists. I did an overlay in order to get a good, complete understanding of everything. And I have to say, it's not very good in terms of the drawing on the black for the Palm Coast. I've been accused of being a polymath, but I'll have to tell you what, I am no Da Vinci. So anyhow, the second thing that I wanted to discuss real quick, Mr. Danko was really awesome in telling everybody to sign up on the website. However, we do have some older folks who cannot get to the website. So that's something that needs to be taken care of. The reason we have more homes on our list than the City Hall has on their list is because we're talking to people. Okay, and those people may or may not have access to internet or to even understand how to put a case on the website. It's not that intuitive. I don't even know how to do it. I know where to go to get it. Okay, but something I want to read to you now that I got 32 seconds. 13 months waiting, creating a new case, and we'll just keep flooding the case log until someone is capable of doing the simplest of jobs. Closed. My swale has 10 inches of water in it, and it's the only one on the street holding water. I'm not joking when I say I had 2 12-inch catfish in my swale in the day of the last big storm. I'm not exaggerating. This is like a 5-star mosquito resort. I'll leave it with that, but this is a list that I received that was forwarded to me from the City Hall about these cases, okay?
Thank you. Did you want to leave that with the clerk, or?
I can't, but I got it from y'all.
Okay, that's
So,
fine.
or actually was
Very good.
forwarded to me,
All
but
right,
thank you
thank you.
very much for the chance to speak.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address me or City Council at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I will,
Andy Clark. I would like to address the sewer and water resolution that's going to be on the agenda again today. Yes, got it?
just close so we can hear.
Okay, good. Yes, I know that many of you were not on the city council when the city and water sewer problems have arisen over the last 20 years. However, I believe it is your responsibility to address this problem. However, we have seen what you need to do. However, I'd like you to address to us also what you are doing to the rest of the city budget to address the problems to saving money within the city budget to help offset the cost of the city and water sewer. Looking at the parks and cities, looking at police and fire, looking at whatever else needs to be done, salaries, positions, whatever else needs to be done within the city budget to cut back on the extreme cost that it's going to the, yes, sir? The extreme cost of the, excuse me, the extreme cost of the sewer and water cost that's going to increase the increases. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else, public speaking at this time? Yes, sir.
I'm really not a resident, but I bought a house here in 2000.
Please just introduce yourself for the record.
David Velez, 46 Red Mill Drive, Racetrack Drive. I'm really not a resident. Bought back in 2015 a brand new home. I got a lot of black mold in it. I don't ever see you guys clean them swales out. I'm down here 4 months a year, 4 weeks a year, excuse me, and I'm paying a water bill to you guys for $103 a month, and I use zero water. And the swale charge is 35 something, and what's that? You don't do nothing in that swale. My guy cuts the grass in there, and he picks out the trash, and I pay him. The water drainage is terrible. I'm very unhappy with the house. I bought it out, I come into the tax thing, and $5,000 now. $5,000 from $1,600. And I lost my business. I went to the council, your council, and nobody seems to care here for hardship or something. And nobody cares here. It's just, that's the way it is. And no trash refuge for my house, it's 4 weeks' worth. And that's cost more than your water and sewer. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Ari Weber, and I live in the F section. I've lived there for 22 years. I'm not having a pity party. I'm a widow, two and a half years now. I have a entry-level job, and I can't afford home insurance anymore because the rates have gone up. Just now, this year, my auto insurance rates went up, and now I hear about water rates going up. I mean, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, so I hope you guys consider there are people who don't have a lot of money, and before doing the rate increase. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any remaining speakers? Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Good evening, Marilyn Mack, the F section. I just want to bring out some quick points of things that were brought up tonight. The comment cards are a joke. I filled one out in November, no response, nothing's going on, no follow-up. Filled out another one in December, no correspondence at all, except we received it by email. They let me know they received it, nothing afterwards, zero. It's March. So there again, somebody's either throwing them in the trash or not doing their job. The resident ad hoc committee, I think, is a waste of time because we already have a committee. We've already been coming here since November talking about the flooding issues and a whole bunch of other issues. And Ken requested the forensic audit 7 months ago, probably 8 months ago now. Still nothing done. The multi-utility bill, one thing that somebody keeps forgetting about is we pay $15 more a month for no additional services to the trash pickup, and that was because of the failure of the purchasing department in this city, because they didn't renew it. They didn't renew the contract, so they went back out on bid, and Waste Pro didn't get it, the other company got it. So we pay $15 more a month for no additional services for that. Personally, I think it's excessive that they come out 3 times a week. As far as the 5-foot easement that you guys put back in place, with all of us complaining about everything with the flooding and the raised homes, I'd like to know who removed that requirement to not have the 5-foot easement. Because the issue I have is I have a foot of dirt and sod at the very back left side of my lot that runs the whole back lot that should not be on my property. That's what the subcontractors did with the new build that's a foot higher. So there's no way for me to get a 5-foot easement back. Her fence sits right on top of my property line. And the mound of dirt and soil is sitting right past it on my lot. And I can come to no resolution with the contractor, and I've been dealing with it since the fall of 2022. So we're coming up on 2 years on that. Can't resolve it. He doesn't want to remove the dirt. I think the dirt should be removed. They still haven't repaired all the holes and damage they did to my lot by their subcontractor. I just want to bring up something else, the multi-utility bill, the water bill. In comparison, I was able to put a used above-ground pool in my yard this year, and it takes 10,000 gallons of water. That only cost me $40 for all that water. but I pay $125 a month for myself, living by myself. I don't run a dishwasher. I might do laundry once or twice a week and shower 3 times a week. It's ridiculous. It's higher than anybody else. So you guys really shouldn't raise it any higher. We shouldn't have to compensate for you all's lack of care for the water system here. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other speakers? Then I'll close public comment at this time. Are there any issues that city council members would like to address in advance of our following up through the comment cards or personally with staff?
Just a few things, Mayor. So a couple things. There was a comment about the safety of Florida Park Drive and also a comment on the safety for Cimarron. We did approve the road safety, the speed study, and specifically putting in 2 medians, I believe, and extra stop signs on Florida Park Drive. So that study is underway. The speed study will include Cimarron Drive, and we also had we're paying this company extra to look at the possibility of installing stop signs on Cimarron and how that could improve safety. So those things are being looked at. Mr. Stone, I know that you inquired about safety mechanisms that are used by the city of Ormond Beach. You're referring to me. I have reached out to Ormond Beach, and we are currently in the process of scheduling a meeting with them to talk about what has worked as far as speed slowing mechanisms that also have not negatively impacted our fire and police and their response time. So that is in the works. It just takes time, unfortunately. So we did a records request from the city to see what they've employed, to see what's worked, and now we're currently trying to set a meeting to meet with them to also talk to them and have an open conversation about what's worked in their city. So those things are being worked on. They are underway. The only other thing that I wanted to bring up is if city manager could please comment on the process of what we do as a city with the comment cards when we get them.
Of course.
Is the water safe to
Hey, excuse me, sir. Okay, public comment is finished. The dais is speaking now. You'll have another chance for public comment, but you can't interrupt the meeting.
I thought I raised my hand.
Thank you, Ms. Pontieri. So when a member of the public fills out the comment card, that immediately gets dispatched by our staff. And in fact, the next day, our top leadership goes over those comment cards as an internal exercise. And then from there, it gets routed to our customer service, who evaluates and investigates and looks at the matter to get a better evaluation of what the concern is and how we can address it. And I know on a weekly basis, I do update City Council on those comment cards. What's very important is please fill out the comment cards. And we will look into those comments tonight if we have the information of the residents of the progress of providing them an update.
Thank you. Any other comments now?
My only suggestion, and thank you, Councilwoman Pontieri, for going into some of the stuff I was going to speak about, but I think we have an opportunity also to educate and maybe arm our residents with a little bit better tools to be able to determine whether or not they have a system that's at fault. I know we had one woman come up, she's living in a single house. There's no way that she's consuming that amount of water. So if our staff could come up with a better procedure to be able to help them troubleshoot through this process, because it doesn't make any sense that we have someone who's living alone, you know, they're running their laundry only a handful of times a week. They're not using thousands and thousands and thousands of gallons. So a little bit better set of tools for them to be able to evaluate. I know during Water Conservation Month, we have a whole bunch of tips on how to evaluate whether your toilets are leaking, all these things. But I think that if we can have an educational opportunity to make people aware on how to check these things, maybe turn off their sprinklers for X number of days, call the water utilities, see what their usage rate is, to be able to just kind of break it down a little bit further. I think that could be an opportunity where we have a little bit of an impact on our community.
And Councilman, the TPO, which I'm liaison, has resources that could provide that training. So City Manager, if we'll kind of schedule that conversation and get them over here to create a program for this, I think that's a good idea. I would ask you, could you clarify for us the organization of the Strawberry Festival? I think there seems to be some misunderstanding as to what that is. Can you, or have staff describe what that is?
Yes, James is working his way up, but that is not a city-run event. It is held within Central Park, I believe. Is that correct, James?
Yes, that's correct.
James, introduce yourself.
James Hurst, Parks and Rec Director. It is a company called Buckler Promotions. They permit out Central Park for this event. They go through our CERT process, which is Special Event Review Team, which is made up of the Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, and city staff. Then once they go through that process, they are issued a permit, and then that team will also do an after-action report on the event as well. And that's, yeah.
Okay, so
Any other questions?
any questions from the city council members? Are they clear on the status of the event? We're good? Yeah. Very good. Thank you, James.
No worries.
Okay, with that, we will move down the agenda to section E, which is the minutes. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the February 20th, 2024 City Council business
I'll make
meeting.
that motion.
Really quickly, though, sorry, Mayor, sorry, there was, sorry, I
No,
don't mean to
okay.
cut you
Go
off.
ahead.
There's one thing, I know this is very rare, but on the February 20th minutes, there was one thing that I did. Just give me 1 second here, I apologize.
That's okay.
So there's a correction on page 11 that should be made. It comments, it's 4 lines down, it says that I had asked if there was a way to increase impact fees to users outside the city versus inside the city. That was not referencing impact fees, that was referencing regular utility fees. So if we could just make that correction, and then by all means, make your motion.
Vice Mayor, could you make the motion with?
Sure, I'll make a motion with Councilwoman Pontieri's correction on outside water fees.
Clerk, you have the change?
I do,
And
thank you.
Councilwoman Hyder has seconded. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Mr. Clerk, have the count.
The motion passed
Thank
unanimously.
you. And one more, please. The City Council Special Workshop held on February the 20th. I'm looking for a motion if there are no changes or corrections
I'll make a
to those
motion to
minutes.
approve if there are no changes. None?
So Vice Mayor has made a motion to approve. May I have a second?
Second.
There's a second from Councilwoman Pontieri. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed?
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We move next to presentations, letter F on your agenda, and the first presentation will be the launch of the Financial Transparency Dashboard. So, Helena, if you'll introduce yourself and go ahead and proceed.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, City Council, Helena Aus, Finance Director. So we would like to take this opportunity to share with the public the launch of the Financial Transparency Dashboard. This allows access to explore the city's revenues and expenditures in great detail. The Communications Department has created a video that details how to navigate the dashboard, and we would like to share that video with you now. Thank you.
The City of Palm Coast's Open Finance website reflects our commitment to improving financial transparency by providing a guided view through complex financial information. On the home page, you will see a drop-down menu with commonly asked questions about city budget. Clicking on these questions will take you to a link with more information. Alternatively, there is a box to easily search for budget aspects that are most important to you. Directly below the search bar, you will notice our 2024 Budget at a Glance video. This video offers a detailed explanation of the 2024 city budget and a thorough explanation of the general fund, special revenue fund, capital funds, and proprietary funds. It can also be found at the Finance webpage on palmcoast.gov. Below the video, you will see links to explore the 2024 project's revenue and expenditures. When you click Explore on the revenue budget, you will be taken to a full list of ledger details for the revenue budget broken down by categories. A drop-down menu at the top of the page allows you to select different budget years to view. The data displayed in the chart can be modified to show the revenue budget broken down by either fund type or subcategories like water sales. Hovering your mouse over any subcategory will allow you to see more detailed information, including the actual revenues collected for that specific category for that selected fiscal year. You can switch the manner in which this data is shown on the screen with the option on the right hand of the page and share the data. When you click Explore on the expenditures budget, you will be taken to a full view of the expenditures broken down by categories. A drop-down menu at the top of the page allows you to select different budget years to view. The data displayed in the chart can be modified to show the revenue budget broken down by either category, fund, or subcategories like capital improvement projects. Hovering your mouse over any subcategory will show more detailed information, including the budget for subcategory and the actual expenditures for the selected fiscal year. You can switch the manner in which this data is shown on the screen with the option on the right hand of the page and share the data. Whether you're seeking answers to common budget questions or exploring detailed breakdowns of revenue and expenditures, our platform is designed to provide clarity and accessibility every step of the way. We hope you will find this new platform useful and know that your city government welcomes your continued involvement in our budget process. For more information on your city's budget, please visit palmcoast.gov/finance today.
That concludes your presentation? Yes, it does. So just remind the audience and those that are listening in one more time, simply, how do you access those that can use the computer and internet? How do you access the site that you just showed us?
So if you go to the city website, palmcoast.gov, and you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a tile for Finance Transparency Dashboard. You can also get there by going to the header menu under Government and choosing Finance Transparency Dashboard, or go to Department and choose Finance, and there's a button right there that'll take you.
So that banner at the bottom is an easy way to find it. And if,
Easiest way.
Helene, if I could ask you, the data that is presented on the site is current as of?
It is updated weekly.
Weekly?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful, very good, thank you. City Council members, any comments or questions on this?
Thank you for the presentation.
No questions, just thank you for doing this. Thank you for putting this together. I think the more transparency we provide, the better.
No comment.
Thank you to our finance department, but also our technology team back there that I'm sure was critical in comprising this, so thank you guys.
Very good, thank you again. Our next presentation will be the evaluation of legal services proposals. And Ms. Johnston, are you going to facilitate this?
Yes, Mayor. Lauren Johnson, Assistant City Manager. If you recall from your February 20th special workshop on legal services, you reviewed several presentations from the prospective bidders. Today, we're here to discuss proposals. I provided you an evaluation sheet, but really looking for council's direction on selecting a top firm. I do have an update that Fishback Dominic has withdrawn their application.
So that leaves us with?
Vos, Douglas, and Gray Robinson.
Got it. So do you have a procedure that you'd like to follow?
I provided a ranking sheet for you. It should be at the dais, but it's discussion, and we're just looking for direction on top proposal.
I have one question for our council. So to kick off, went back, watched the video again, made sure that, I appreciate all the questions that were asked during that conversation. My biggest question would be, has anyone reached out? Because it was Councilwoman Pontieri who established that, hey, these rates in the fee proposal potentially could be negotiated. And we went back and forth with the city manager, but basically we were told that we were free to reach out. Has anyone on the council successfully been able to have any update on the fee proposals? I know that if we reached out individually, just so we can keep everybody on the same playing field before we go into our evaluation, because there was a drastic variance in the fee proposals, some of them being much more lofty than others, but again, whether or not the negotiation actually occurred, I would just ask council members.
Councilman, what I can share with you is that I did reach out to other cities and organizations that are related to either municipalities or counties to talk to people that I work with that have experience and maybe are working with members of the various firms, which is what I also used to make my selection as to prioritizing a choice for legal services. I have no updates on the actual presentation made by each of the legal firms, but I used the experience of others that have worked with them for some time.
Understood, and I appreciate that. I just want to make sure we were all evaluating from the same level playing field, and so the fee proposals that were issued to us would remain consistent. That's fair.
And Councilman Clufus, I did not reach out for negotiation. What I did is I went back and looked at the last 2 years of the legal bills that the city has gotten, and they've all been around each month $29,000 to $30,000. So it seems to me that the Douglas firm is pretty on par with that proposal. From my understanding, the legal services that we've been getting have been top-notch, in my opinion. But to at least make sure we're remaining within that budget, I think it wasn't necessary from my standpoint to reach out. The other proposals were just vastly higher, so it's kind of in my mind not really worth it. But they seem to be pretty on par with.
And I'll just add in, I had great conversations with the Douglas firm, especially with the two lawyers that will actually be here, serving us, and I'm very, very impressed with their attitude and their basic understanding that they work for us. We can hire them, we can fire them, and their job is to work for this council first. They obviously will work with our staff too, but their interest is here at the dais with us and what we're doing. So I'm very impressed with them.
Any comment, Councilwoman?
No comment at this time.
So I'm going to ask city council members, to expedite the process. I'm certainly willing to share my choice as to the top, my top pick. Are we all okay doing that, or is there some other procedure you'd like to follow?
I'm fine.
I'm fine with
So let me share that my top pick is the Douglas firm. So I guess I would just go down the dais and see if we have consensus or not.
I'm with the Douglas firm.
I am too. I do want to thank everybody who did submit proposals, and I want to especially thank the Vos firm because you all are very impressive. I know you provide very good services to the city of Bunnell. My hesitancy, and I tell you this as a professional, as an attorney, I just want to thank you for what you've done. But as we move west and as we are expanding, I just want to avoid any potential conflicts of interest. And so for me, Douglas firm didn't present that. I felt the same way about Gray Robinson. I felt that there could be potential conflicts of interest. And so for that reason, I'm also on board with the Douglas firm.
Understood. Councilwoman?
My only comment is that I thought that the Voss firm did an excellent presentation. I was very impressed by it. However, I thought that the fees were quite high in comparison to the rest of them, and understandably so because of your experience, how long you've been in the field of working with municipalities. But I think I would go along with the Douglas firm also.
Councilman Clufus?
Yep, I resonate with all of these comments. I think that the variance in the amount that we could potentially pay per attorney services is probably justified. Saying that from their presentations, incredible stuff, very well represented. I have no problems really as long as we're all on board going with the same attorney services. I think that's probably the best outcome for all of us. So I wouldn't have any qualms going with the Douglas firm.
Ms. Johnson, are you looking for a second pick as well, or are we okay? We have a unanimous consensus up here on our selection. Does that give you the direction you're looking for?
Yes, Mayor, unanimous consensus is good.
Okay, so in addition to that, I think I'm going to ask for we'll get to public comment in a minute, ask for a motion that would direct city manager to prepare and negotiate a contract that is consistent with the RFP that was sent out.
So just so we understand this, is we give them our vote, basically. This is our hire. We instruct our city manager to work with this firm and come to a contract, which comes back to us
Yes.
for
Correct.
final approval.
So
And
that's a good question. Does it come back in a workshop for discussion before a business meeting, or does it come back at a business meeting for a vote?
It's your preference, Mayor.
What do you all feel?
It's our hire, and I think that we're here making that hire tonight, it would seem to me.
I think a business meeting to review the just make sure the
Maybe,
contract
fine.
is,
A workshop necessary, right?
Yeah, either way.
Is that, okay. So the direction is that we have a motion to direct city manager to negotiate a contract with the Douglas firm to come back and present that contract at our next business meeting. Let me have a second.
I'll second.
So I have a second from Councilwoman Pontieri. Any other discussion? Okay, now I will open this item up to the public. Do any members of the public care to make comment on this agenda item at this time? Go ahead.
My name is Celia Puglisi. I live here since 1991. I'm just asking if the firm has any expertise in land development. It's very important for the city and for us, the residents, that this firm has a thorough knowledge of land development rules when it comes to rezoning that is affecting in such a negative way all of us in Palm Coast, and spot zoning, and or special exceptions to the existing zonings. So it's vital for us to have a firm that knows about that, because in the past, I have noticed that even though we residents using expert land development attorneys, we were successful. So we don't want the city to go through the same mistakes again, okay?
I thank you. Are there, yes, sir.
Robert McDonald, Palm Coast. For 30 years, I was lucky enough to be the union shop steward for the United States Postal Service, so I know contracts. My only question is, we have a gentleman sitting right next to the mayor who's our city attorney. Pretty smart guy. I don't know him, but I would assume he's a pretty smart guy. Why then are we asking the city manager, who, to the best of my knowledge, does not have a law degree, but she does her job very well, but she should only have to worry about doing her job. She shouldn't be worried about doing his job. So I would request that the mayor address the city attorney and have him draw up the contract, because if there's a whoops, then all of us are gonna have to pay for that whoops. So that there's no whoopses, let that man right there do his job, or let his firm do his job, and let him make up the contract, because then there's no whoopses.
Appreciate your comment. And just to clarify, the city manager has access to the city attorney as needed and throughout the contract negotiation process. So they work together. Okay, any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Marilyn Mack, the F section. I have 26 years of governmental procurement experience in local, state, quasi, and federal. I've never seen procurement done this way in my life. So if you guys can enlighten me, I'd love to hear it. I've never seen a city council, you guys are sitting up here asking for directions, how it's done, how do I do this, how do I rate it, but yet you were the selection committee for it? And why is the city manager gonna negotiate and execute the contract? Again, why do you have a purchasing department? That's what the head of the purchasing department does, or one of the buyers, or whoever executed the RFP in the first place. The committee's supposed to be set up before you ever do anything, and I've never seen a presentation done publicly. Everything's supposed to be behind closed doors. That's why you do a solicitation. So whose government regs, federal, state, or whoever, are y'all going by for purchasing? I've never seen this before ever. It's very curious, because there's a whole lot of hanky-panky that can go on with it operating this way. The other thing I don't see purchasing doing, they don't do performance-based contract. Apparently, they don't know anything about that. They didn't negotiate the trash contract to get us a better rate. We're paying $15 more a month for no additional services. I could go on for days. Again, I don't know how this city functions on a daily basis.
Thank you for your comment. Any other members of the public? Yes, sir.
I don't know if you haven't noticed, but when we get...
Please introduce yourself for the
Bruce
public.
Stone, C-Section. I don't know if you haven't noticed, but when we get heavy rains or light rains, Florida Park is totally flooding. The public lots.
Sir, we're talking about the appointment of an attorney now.
Excuse me?
I say we're on an agenda, and the agenda item is discussing the appointment of an attorney for the city of Palm Coast. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address this agenda item at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment. I'll come back to the dais. Any final comments? Is everybody clear on the procedure?
Yes, I have one, but also, just for posterity, our purchasing department did go back and negotiate for our solid waste removal contract, and we got a lower total price than what had actually been submitted by our previous hauler. And we were very fortunate to be locked in for 5 years to that previous contract, because that's right. Because that is right when everything kind of stopped going to China, so our recycling was actually causing them to be inverted. But I digress. Essentially, our purchasing department had done those things, and if we can have staff just explain how this position and also the city manager position are different as far as purchasing, I think for posterity, that'd be great.
Okay, and just a final comment, at least for public discussion from my point of view. Every step of this process has been in the sunshine, in public meeting, including presentations. There's been no part of it that was not available to the public at any time. So I'd just like to go on the record and make sure that's clear with everybody. Is in agreement with that?
Yes.
And as Mr. Kloufis said, this is a very separate procedure. It's the two positions that we actually control. Right. So it's slightly different than what it would be if we were sending this out to bid for garbage or whatever.
Very good. Yeah. All right, with that then I would, we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion, so I would ask the clerk to call the vote.
A roll call vote. Vice Mayor Danko?
Yes.
Councilmember Hyder? Yes. Councilmember Kloufis?
Aye.
Councilmember Pontieri?
Yes.
Mayor Alfin? Yes. The motion passes unanimously.
We now move to section G, which is ordinances of the second read, and this is regarding the utility rate. Counselor, I guess if you would read that into the record for me, and then you have a note as well.
Okay, utility rate amendment, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Flagler County, Florida, providing for an increase in capital facilities connection fees, which are impact fees, providing for annual adjustments of connection impact fees to account for inflation, providing for administrative and legislative findings and intent, providing for the operation of the City of Palm Coast utility systems, providing for the adoption of administrative rules and implementing actions, providing for exhibits, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date. This is second and final reading of this ordinance. Also, it's a legislative item for the council to consider. If you recall, at the last council meeting, the City Council directed that this ordinance be significantly revised to only address the impact fees. This ordinance does not address the usage fees. All the usage fee provisions were taken completely out of this ordinance, so the subject matter, again, on this ordinance is only pertaining to adjustments to the impact fees. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. DiLorenzo, do you have any comments? When you're ready,
no.
Take your time when you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Jason DiLorenzo, Chief of Staff. Sorry about that. No, sir. I think your council covered it. We've made the adjustments to the ordinance that you requested, and the rates won't be changing for the consumption, and they'll just be changing for CIAC fees.
Questions for staff?
I have none at this time.
My only question is, I'm looking at Exhibit A to the ordinance, which is what actually lays out the increases that are effective. It compares the current rate versus May 1st of 24, 25, 26, and 27. And perhaps I'm just not looking at the total figures correctly, but I want to make sure those match what was presented to us, because it looks to me that the figures, for instance, when we get to May 1st of 2027, it looks like the rate goes up to, for the water service, not the wastewater, it goes up to $4,378 when I have on my sheet that it should be up at $5,421. So I'm wondering if it's just because the breakdown is a little bit different than what we had in the presentation, but the bottom line number will be the same. But I want to make sure that that's correct in the exhibit before we vote on the ordinance itself.
Mr. Grau from Stantec will try to answer your question.
Thank you.
Hi, so I'm working from memory, but I believe that it's because in that Schedule A, we've broken out the CIAC fee between a main extension or transmission component versus the other functional components of the impact or the fee. So it's, if you add up that main extension fee line and that CIAC line together, that'll be the total from the presentation.
Okay, that's correct, yeah. All right, thank you, I appreciate that explanation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Does that work? Does that fill in? Comments?
No, not at this time. The only comments I would have are essentially, when is the next time that we're planning to have a rate study done? And the reason I ask for these things is because I just want to kind of, heavy foreshadow, if in 3 years this rate study comes back and it's at the same, results, that everything over the past 5 years has increased. Everyone feels that in all of their pockets. I'm myself included, everyone on our council, but so does the water utility. And there isn't huge amounts of waste occurring at the water utility that we're able to just quote unquote tighten our belts and be able to continue without running into a deficit. And I fear what's going to occur, because I've sat up here long enough to foreshadow this, is in 3 to 5 years, we're going to have another rate study come back, and the rate study is going to say we need the same type of increases, except it's going to be retroactive essentially because of the power of compounding. So we're going to have these issues 3 to 5 years from now, and the increases are going to be more substantial instead of getting ahead of it now. I just wanted to ask staff, do we have any plans for the next recurring water rate study, and when is it required legally? Also how that kind of ties into all of our bonds and funding.
Councilman Clufus, the direct answer to your question is, that they're on a general updated schedule of roughly five years. But when staff met last week, we decided that we would try to provide a lookout when utility comes to do their budget presentation, which I believe is in May. And this way we'll try to kind of give you some guidance on where we are after, because we have to go back, and there's another part, you have another agenda item with a change order, because we have to go back and now look at it again and decide what will remain in the CIP. And at that point, we'll have a better idea of where we are, and then we'll try to provide you more information in May. And obviously, we're not going to, we would not let it get to a critical point. But really, I think we would rely on council's guidance as well as we provide you the information if you want to accelerate a look at it before the regularly scheduled review.
Yeah, understood. I just give that forewarning because we have our literal expert here. And as a council, this is the reason we have these water rate studies, is to see where our revenues are matching our expenses. And we're not taking the advice of our expert at this point. And I just want to make sure that we stay ahead of it as best as we can, because my fear is that our council will not be able to get there until another 5 years from now. And at that rate, no pun intended on rate, but we may actually get there and it could be a $15 a month increase instead of earlier with the lifeline opportunities that we had for volumetric user increases. The woman who spoke earlier today actually would have had a small rate decrease for the remainder of the year. These are things that are very important, and it can quickly get out of hand if the power of compounding isn't applied. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Okay.
If I may piggyback on that, Councilman Clufus, I agree with you. I think that, but the direction of council was we needed some more information, which is what I think we're waiting on from both our consultant and staff. So I don't think we've taken off the table looking at the utility rates for the residents and making sure that we aren't compounding an issue that we know exists because of the cost of everything and maintaining the system and all of those things. But at this point, I think we were all kind of wanting a little bit more information before making that leap. So I agree that, you know, we need to look at this very closely and make sure that we're preparing for the future. But I also am 100% on board with getting that information from staff before we make that decision.
Okay, thank you. So I do have some summary comments which I would like to share to clarify my thinking from the last meeting. Clean quality drinking water and stormwater mitigation are, in my opinion, must-haves every day for every resident of Palm Coast. I understand and will support future capital improvements to our systems in order to guarantee the continued operation and expansion of our utilities, which are essential to support our present and future users. I accept responsibility as a lone dissenting vote, remaining accountable for my decisions. Good governance requires guts to stand up and lead towards a well-planned and managed future above the noise of short-term campaign preferences. I am not fully confident that investing more money in a utility department that suddenly claims extreme circumstances to justify increases is worthy of an immediate approval. Approving smaller increases is analogous to death by 1,000 cuts. Utility will return to council for future increased rates. Good governance dictates that we consider increasing fees as part of an all-inclusive, comprehensive program that is responsibly forecast for a conservative city budget. Utility fee structure should support the vision of our overall budget and provides the capital investment for our short and long-term future. New leadership providing new management direction should be closely examined before adoption of a bits and pieces process. We do not have a final tally of our requests for utility funding from the state. I think our vote to increase rates in favor of capital improvements is premature until we balance costs against potential investments from the state legislature. So, just in summary, I look forward to working together with all of City Council and City Manager to improve our utility planning to provide the highest level of quality utility service for all residents, but my vote this evening remains no to the increase. So with that, I would ask if there's any other comments. If not, I would open.
Well, if we're going to make comments, we can just be clear for posterity with the audience that this is not going to be a rate increase that they will incur. So if we're going to do this, let's make sure that at least we have full transparency on who this is going to impact and that it is not anyone, well, unless they're, you know, potentially going to be building here in the future and service fees and along those lines, it's not a usage increase.
Right, and I just wanted to clarify that too. This is an increase on impact fees on builders.
Yes.
Correct, not on the public.
Right.
Okay.
And
So in full transparency, if I may, that impact fee gets passed directly to the new home buyer.
To consumers, correct?
right, that's absolutely right. But as opposed to, and I'm sorry, I take great pause with that, because yes, you're absolutely right, Mayor, but the alternative is that our current residents subsidize the cost of growth, and that is absolutely not acceptable. So
I didn't allude to that.
well,
I think
Mayor,
just to
don't know if
clarify
you-
what I said was that I didn't think that this moment was the appropriate moment to rush to make a decision. What I said, I thought it was fairly clear that, and you had also said that you were awaiting additional information. So while awaiting additional information and knowing that the necessity of approving this at this very moment it's the wrong moment in time for that. But go ahead.
And I can understand that, and you're right. I absolutely said I want to see what it is that we get from appropriations. I can tell you I've seen the ongoing list, and it's not looking so great. So we can't depend on that. We need to increase the impact fees now because we know for a fact that the majority, and we've heard this from staff, we heard this from our consultant, the majority of the capacity increases in the capital improvement projects are because of expansion and growth. They're not because of ongoing operation. So these are totally different things. I can appreciate wanting to wait on more information, but even if we did get let's say we got every penny from Tallahassee that we asked for for water and wastewater, which it's not looking like we will right now. We would still need to raise the impact fees. I mean, that still wouldn't solve our problems.
As I said in my opening statement, but how much?
Well, we're not raising the impact fees the max amount we could. So we could raise them more than what we've proposed right now. So to that, and candidly at the beginning, I was all on board for doing that. But because we are waiting on, and we do think we will get appropriations, I want to be very reasonable and fair to the building community. So in that vein, I say, okay, the rates that have been proposed are quite fair and reasonable. And for that reason, I 100% think that this ordinance this is the right time to do it. And if we do get more appropriations than what we are expecting, which again, I don't think is going to happen realistically and looking at what's coming down the pipeline so far, then we need to readjust the budget to figure out how we can use impact fees smartly and then use less of the fees that come into the enterprise fund for the benefit of our current residents.
Which I totally agree, which is my reason for wanting to take the time in advance of, we're not facing, in my opinion, a catastrophic moment. So taking the time to do this in a well-planned, managed, thoughtful, fully informed way is my point. But go ahead,
So
Vice Mayor.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When will we know what we're getting from Tallahassee?
As soon as the governor finishes reviewing all of the appropriations requests. So I'm thinking within the next 10 days.
Is this
30
something we
days.
should just hold back on for another couple council meetings for 10 days?
No,
I'm not opposed to
I'm not, listen, I'm explaining my vote.
Right.
You all have your vote, and there shortly will be a motion, so that's not something that I suggested.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify my position.
I'm just asking the rest of council, including Councilwoman Pontieri, we're not sure what we're going to get from Tallahassee. I don't have a crystal ball either.
Yeah.
I can call Paul Renner all day long. It doesn't really matter. They're going to do what Tallahassee's going to do. But do you think we should wait the extra 10 days, I'm asking?
I don't, and I can appreciate the position of wanting to wait. My issue is that I look at the reports of where we're at with the appropriations every other day. I was looking at them last night, and candidly, the majority of the money that we're looking to get right now is not for water and wastewater. It's for roads, which we also need money for. So at this point, I think that if we want this to go into effect while it's in front of us, I don't think it's worth the wait because, like I said, and like our consultant has said, even if we get the monies from Tallahassee that we are waiting on, we are still going to have to raise the impact fees, the amount that's been proposed, because of the vast expense that growth is causing to our water system. So, I don't think it's going to have, like I said, even if we got every dollar we asked for, it's still not going to affect these numbers.
If I could ask one more question just to staff.
Please.
Just for posterity. If we didn't have another person move into the city, would we at some point in the future still be incurring a deficit as far as operational costs and the water utility as a whole?
If there were no new customers, would it?
Barring, yes, if we don't even think about how that impacts our bonding and anything like that, but at our current rates, if we didn't have anyone else move into the city, or I shouldn't say move into the city, but any new hookups into the city, would we still incur the event of running a deficit?
Well, we've been experiencing higher operational costs, for a number of reasons, so yes.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I agree.
Yeah, so we can point fingers all day long, but if all of us are in this together, we don't allow another person in here, at some point we would still need to raise operational rates.
I think you've seen some presentations that show just the cost of chemicals alone, let alone labor and everything else to produce and recover water.
Yeah, yeah. For posterity, I just want to put that out there, that the current state, what our experts and staff are telling us is that if we continue at the current rate without any additional people moving into the city, that the cost of operating a water utility has not gone down over the past 5 years. It's very much gone up. And that we all feel it in our pockets, all of us up here included, and that's the advice that we're getting from our experts. And I just want to put that out there and have it in the record.
Okay, with that, we can go ahead and do a motion in a second, then I can go to public comment, whatever you prefer.
Send it to public comment first and then come back for a motion. Probably.
Okay, then I'll open up the item for public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this agenda item at this time?
Good evening, Anna Maria Long, Executive Officer, Flagler Home Builders Association.
Anna, to bring it a little closer. Thanks.
Usually no one asks me to be louder, I'm sorry. Anna Maria Long, Executive Officer, Flagler Home Builders Association. We typically oppose fee increases across the board and fundamentally for many reasons, mainly that the cost increase is an increase not to the builder or developer, but to the end user, the new homeowner. And we all heard everyone speak out against any fee increases, and we know that things are hard right now. That said, after reviewing the full study and the proposed stormwater and utility impact fee increases, the Flagler HBA will not oppose the increased fees. The builders do recognize the need to continue to pay for and support the growth that we help to create. We certainly want our residents to come here and enjoy the clean water. We want the plumbing to go in the direction it's supposed to, not hang out in the house. Most of us also live here, so we want to enjoy the same things, and we don't want people moving into a house that the water doesn't suck, and yeah. And we can only hope that the water becomes affordable. I gotta throw that in there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Candy Stevens, P-section. I just wanted to say, when I first moved to Palm Coast, God, did I think it was expensive. Oh. Water was higher, electric was higher, car insurance was higher. My homeowner's insurance wasn't higher then, though, so everything kind of evened out for me. We pay premium price to live in Palm Coast. That's one of the things that makes Palm Coast prestigious. We have beautiful streets, we have beautiful landscaping, we have beautiful signage stating that you're in Palm Coast. So I didn't mind when I first moved here to pay all the extra fees and things like that. So you're saying now the water, you're not gonna charge the residents anymore, it's gonna go to the developers, which it should. The developers are making a killing off of overdeveloping, destroying Palm Coast. So they should take the fees and pay those, not us, the residents. They're sitting here saying that it costs more to run the water plant. I guess chemicals are more, manpower's more. We only have one water plant right now. Y'all are gonna put a second one in. Are we gonna have this discussion again when we have to pay 2 water plants to run? It's a question. I mean, I think it's a legitimate question. Whenever you have 2 of something, it costs more than 1 of something. So you're gonna fix this issue hopefully right now for the water bills right now, but in the future, when you're gonna have the second water plant, we're gonna be here all over again because they're gonna have these same arguments. We're already running at a deficit. So we need to figure out how to fix our water system, our swell system. All this stuff is connected to the development that's going on here. It's all connected. So I don't mind to pay to live in Palm Coast because I moved here knowing I was gonna pay more, but I don't wanna pay any more now because I'm not getting any services for what I'm paying for. I'm just not getting anything anymore. Pay more for everything. Trash, like she said, is even more. It's just, the economy is really bad right now, and there's a lot of people that can't afford $5 more. You know, I'm luckily not in that. I can work an extra day to make extra money, but there's some people that can't. And this town was developed as a retirement town. Everybody knows that. I know everybody's trying to get away from that, but that's what it is. So those people are the core of Palm Coast. The retirees, those people need to be taken care of, the people that are on a fixed income especially, because they don't have anywhere to get more money. So we need to take those people in mind when we're doing anything that's going to cost any of the existing residents more money. Charge the new people. Charge them.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, next speaker, please. Either one.
Good evening, Mike Norris, 2 Lima Place. Where's Mr. Flanagan? That's what I'd like to know. Where's Mr. Flanagan? Because I've been told that he was relieved of his duties. Maybe a rumor, I'd like to verify that. And I'd also like for somebody on the council to motion to put this off and max out those impact fees. Because we, just like Mr. Kloof said, we don't know what's going to happen in 3 or 4 years from now. But these developers are taking advantage of this city, and we need to max out those rates. I hope one of you, at least one of you up there, agree with me. Max out the rates now, increase them to the full effect that are allowed by that study, because you're not going to be able to touch it in like 4 years. So go ahead and do it now, because this city needs some relief. Your strategic priorities, water treatment facility is on the bottom of the list. I'm sure you don't rank them how you want to go, but westward expansion is number 1, and then water treatment is down below. That is the wrong answer. So you need to shift and get your priorities straight, because these people can't afford this. Me and my wife can't afford a $170 a month water bill, plain and simple. We're on a fixed income, and we have a pretty good income that's fixed. But that is crazy. So somebody on that council needs a motion to max out those fees and move forward from there. Because once it hits, you're not going to be able to do it for another 4 years.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please, Celia. All right, please have some respect for the next speaker. Go ahead. Yep.
Celia Puglisi, since 91 in Palm Coast. I totally agree with the speaker before me. I think this council needs to max out the impact fees. Because let's think in this way. We got to this situation because everything that is being built until now with very low impact fees, we are forced to fund all this growth because there's been no enough impact fees until now. Even the county didn't have impact fees for 10 years, and they just started. This is totally out of line because they force us to fund all those. These new developments are really undermining this growth, all the sudden growth, are undermining our lives. From not only from the utilities, our roads are being impacted because all these trucks, with all these constructions, heavy trucks, using our roads, and they are deteriorating on a faster pace. Also, we are being smoked left and right because the city so far, though I ask, does not have an ordinance city-wide for no ban of parcel clearing burn, no of the state-controlled burn, which is for our health and ecological. It is parcel burn, which is for these subdivisions that they burn and kill everything, and we are being smoked. So it's the roads, it's our water, it's our sewer, it's also our drainage water, our storm water. You know, we are losing our lands, which are wetlands that usually absorb all that in the past, and we don't have a special plans to reduce that lack of absorption now. So it is a problem, all this growth for all of us. And you need to max out those impact fees because we've been paying until now. That 22 million treatment plant on the north side of Palm Coast was just to serve everything that is coming up in the north side of Palm Coast. It's not to serve us, that 22 million treatment plant. We are not born yesterday. We realize that. So, and it's more than 22 million. So it is fair that these builders pay for what they haven't been paying all this time, okay? You need to max out because it's going to be too late. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please. Yes, ma'am. Hold on just a second, Ms. Hold on. Go ahead, either one.
Hi, I'm Leslie Johnson, again from Palm Coast. We're talking about impact fees, and I'm going to pull out my map here for just a real quick second. Okay, now this map, if you recall what I mentioned all around the city, were the CDDs. There are CDDs planned for certain sections of this city that haven't been built yet. You are borrowing from Paul, Peter to pay Paul, because without building, you have no impact fees. So up here, there are no buildings yet. They're just beginning. You can't collect an impact fee from a building that hasn't been built yet. Down here in the southern section, you have several CDDs coming. I'm not talking about Bunnell over here, okay? I'm talking about just your basic CDDs. There's more being planned. As we speak, town center is exploding, okay? Or they want to explode it with CDDs with buildings that have not been built yet. How do you collect an impact fee on something that's not there? So therefore, the money that you're going to be looking for is going to be coming from these guys in the middle. These poor guys in the middle are going to be footing those bills. I want you to take that into consideration and be really careful because the CDDs aren't fully complete yet, and there are more coming. Okay, and I want to thank you again for letting me speak. And I do have copies of this, if you'd like me to. Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Robert McDonald, Palm Coast. When my kids were little, they used to say, "Daddy, how'd you get so smart?" And I said, "Because I ask a lot of stupid questions." Well, this is going to be my stupid question. I have no idea, absolutely no idea, what an impact fee is. None. I don't know what it is. I don't know who pays it. I don't know how much they pay. But more importantly, we're talking about money. Okay, so maybe somebody could give me a 35 words or less, what an impact fee is, who pays it, where does the money go, and is it going to ultimately reduce the amount of taxes that I have to pay? And if it's coming from builders, then I would think raise the impact fee and let the builders pay for it, because they're the ones that are going to make money on all their couple of hundred houses they're going to build. You and I and everybody, all these people are not going to get squat out of it. So if somebody could, in their infinite wisdom, just explain to me what an impact fee is, who pays it, how much do we get, is it a one-shot deal, or is it like the fairy godmother? You just keep going to the well. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeLorenzo, you'll follow up with the...
Actually, Mr. Mayor, actually, if you could do a quick 30 seconds or less on impact fees, it might be
Vice
helpful.
Mayor, there was like 10 questions there. I would rather that the resident get a complete and correct answer. I mean, if you want a definition of impact fee, go ahead. But
Just a quick one.
More to the question than that.
No, well, I just think that for everyone in the room
Go ahead.
to
Okay.
understand when impact fees are collected and where they go to. It's a very short explanation.
And what they could be used for, too. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Go ahead.
Yes. City Council, so an impact fee is exactly what it says. It's a fee for you impacting the system, and it's paid at building permit. It's paid for all residential and commercial units. It's a little bit different when you're on the commercial side, but it's an equivalent. Primarily when you're looking at your numbers there, you're seeing the residential numbers, because on the commercial side, it's on anticipated flow of depending on the uses that are in the commercial building and so on. But on the residential side, it's quite easy. A single family dwelling unit has a certain number, a multifamily dwelling unit has a certain number, and it's charged at the time of building permit. So if you had a project with 100 townhouses, you would pay 100 times the townhouse cost of the impact fee at building permit issuance. And if you're building one home, you pay that amount at the time of building permit issuance. There's another important part to impact fees, because if you don't mind, Mayor, the relationship between the impact fees and the capital plan. So Mr. Grau is going to cover how, just briefly, how the impact fee is, how the methodology is built to prepare the final number of the impact fee residential.
If you could also, once you're done, I'm sorry, also how CDDs are related to impact fees and how that impacts everything.
Oh, yeah, I'll cover that first. So impact fees can only be used regardless of what they are, and we collect many, and they're updated all the time, and we never had a moratorium of impact fees similar to the county did for some period of time. And they're updated regularly. Most of them, I think all of them now, are indexed to some index where they're annually updated to keep up with inflation or construction costs or whatever that index is for that particular impact fee. They can only be used to add capacity. They cannot be used to fix an existing problem. And so, like, you could not use a transportation impact fee to repave a road, but you could do it. You could use it for any project that added capacity to that road. So, if
Can I use an impact fee to fix a water main?
Yeah, an existing water main.
Yes.
No.
That's an important thing to denote.
Right.
Because our water system is how old? About 60 years old. And how long? When do water systems usually sunset? About 60 years. That's why a lot of these, acceleration and deterioration of our water system is happening. And a lot of these impact fees aren't going to be able to cover those type of things that have been occurring.
So I just want to make sure everyone knows we have a robust maintenance plan and as well, right? That's included in our rate. But Mr. Grau will discuss the nexus between, and that's a legal term, between the capital plan that's anticipated in the study and the development of the fee itself.
Yeah, so as stated, there has to be a rational nexus between the portion of the assets that are included in the basis of the fee and those that are paying for the fee. So when a new connection comes online, really what they're buying into is their share of capacity in the backbone infrastructure of the system. So when you have, if we're anticipating growth to come and we've run out of capacity, or we don't have sufficient capacity to serve that future growth, these big infrastructure components need to get constructed prior, but who pays for it? These types of fees give the opportunity to share the cost by a means other than usage fees that get at this issue of equity in terms of capacity in the overall system, or in the key backbone infrastructure of the system.
Okay. All right, we're still in public comment. Vice Mayor, does that get you?
Yeah, I just want to clarify one thing. When you say when building permits are issued, that's before you go vertical, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's when they get the building permit, because I think there was a little confusion where somebody thought that we didn't collect until the very end, and that's not the case.
By state law, I believe you can wait till CO, but people pay up front.
Up front. Thank you.
Good enough. Okay, let's continue with public comment. I don't want to interrupt that. Yes, sir.
Peter Johnson, Palm Coast. I have a few things I just wanted to say in regards to this. One, with the current rate studies that we've seen over the past and with the projected shortfall of our budget, if we haven't been allocating the full impact fees for the developers, the impact fees for the developers that have been coming here, and we're short in the budget currently, projected going to be short in the budget, would it not make the most sense to max out these impact fees now because they haven't been paying the fair share, and now they're still not going to be paying the full amount of share for their development that they're incurring? One thing, I appreciate the Home Builders Association being on board with this, but usually if someone's on board with something that affects them, it means they're getting a pretty good deal out of it. And usually when people walk away unhappy, it's because both sides have reached somewhat of a fair agreement. So if you were to max out the impact fees for the developers, then, because we've conceded that there's going to be a shortfall that is eventually going to have to be placed on the residents eventually, because impact fees can't address new development, then it would be a more appropriate ask if you were going to ask the residents, because we've shown that we have maxed out the development impact fees. Now we're going back to the residents. It's just food for thought. As well as if we delay the impact fees for the resident or for the developers any longer, I'm concerned with the market trends in real estate right now. We have seen drastic number differentials from COVID where houses were selling for 50, 60 over asking price. Houses are sitting on the market longer. Developments aren't being built as fast. Development is starting to slow down a little bit because of the market and the availability for houses. what happens in 2 years when the market dries up and then we're not able to collect any of these impact fees, and we go out west and we can't cover the cost because the developments are foreclosing or whatever the case may be. I think, as much as I hate to say it, someone has to pay for this. The residents should not be the first ones to be on the chopping block in order to put this forward. We have experienced unprecedented growth in Flagler County. Historically, we've seen about 5,000 people move into the city every year in Palm Coast. I believe we're on pace for like 17,000 this year, if my numbers are correct, from all the new homes that have been added. It's a huge jump, and to go back to the people and ask them to pay the fair share for the people that are moving in, yeah, it gets passed on to the consumer, but at the end of the day, people are moving here not for retirement anymore. Becoming a somewhat political safe haven for a lot of people. So they're moving here from states that they don't agree with their policies. They're selling their houses for 2 to 3 times worth what they are up north, and they're moving down here and they're flush with cash. I think if they are going to make a significant impact on our area, they should pay for it. I mean, it's only fair that the people moving here that are making the impact cover their share and their burden. So thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other members of the, yes, sir?
My name is John Da Silva, and I was not going to speak, but I've
Do me a
heard
favor, just,
Councilwoman.
John, just move your mic, that's it, thank you.
I would like you all to do, especially Mr. Klufas. You know, we could hardly hear him.
I'm sorry about that. Sorry.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Pontorieri brought out the fact that the impact fees should probably or could go higher, and I think they should, both for development, for the residential and the commercial side. That is impacting all of us because of all the development that goes on is why we are going to be raised. And I know that eventually we're gonna be jacked up. So I would suggest that you raise to the maximum possible on both residential and the commercial side of it. Also would like to suggest that you guys maybe put a freeze on development on the west side. We don't need any more houses. This pretty soon is going to be gentrified. Palm Coast, it's going to be, you know, you're pushing everybody out of here. Everybody that is on a fixed income is going to be pushed out, and the new people with, you know, that come from up north is going to be able to buy because they sell a lot for a lot more money up there, bring it down here, and push everybody else out of the way. That's not how it should be. You should look for those that put you in there and cover their backs. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comment.
All right.
Any other members of the public? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Either way, go ahead.
Just to reiterate, Brian Burley, our section, please motion and pass to max the impact fees tonight. Developers can pay this. Will it fix an existing water main? No, but part of the discussion in all this, you've looked at the water system and water department only. There's been no, I don't think, study about what other departments in the city of Palm Coast can take some cuts. It's a government. You always have to max out your yearly budget or you lose it next year. There's money available. We all know there is. Do it. Take the money that can be cut from the other departments, put it toward the basic indoor plumbing, and then drainage. Even if it's just for a few years. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Karina Thune, live in Seminole Woods. On our street alone, there have been many houses built over the last year, and the water is slowly rising. Water that we never had a problem with before. I believe all of you ran on being smart growth, but clear cutting trees across the board is not smart growth. All the impact fees, all the increases in rates that we have will not matter when our house is underwater. We can't get flood insurance because we don't live in a flood zone, but it will matter one day to all of us, to all of your residents. So yes, max out the fees, but it won't matter if we don't build it and do it correctly. And that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other members of the public that would like to comment on this issue at this time? Seeing, yes, sir.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is William Jeffries. I live in the B section. I heard a lot of things tonight, but one thing I didn't hear was, why do we let cable companies continue to run cables through our yards? We had 3 different cable companies that I'm aware of.
We're talking about the utility fee.
Hold on, I'm going to get to that. Because what they're doing is they're going behind when you go in and you go in our ditches and stuff for the drainage system, they're going behind you and they're digging it up, putting in cable stuff. So that is one thing that you might want to be aware of, because we didn't have a problem, but when we had this last big rain, I walked up the street and all my neighbors' yards the water was in the road. Okay, so I am addressing what we're talking about, because they're going behind the job you're doing, and now you have to go back out there and do it again, because they're tearing it up. And the cable company come knocked on my door and asked me if I wanted their cable, and I said, no, I want you to fix my yard. So, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Are there any other comments? I see no one come forward. I'll close public comment and come back to the dais for additional discussion.
I have none.
Just a couple questions for edification. How is it that we determined how much we should raise the impact fees by? And in this calculation, I have 2 main questions. Is there a full cost recovery that's projected, number 1? And number 2, are we accounting for rate of inflation through the year of 2027 in these calculations?
Yes, we are calculating. The rates proposed are the full cost recovery fees, phased in consistent with the Florida Impact Fee Act. And then the costs are reflected, I believe they're in $2024. So it's we've taken the historical assets, escalated them to 2024. I'll need to double check though if we've escalated. We should have escalated into future year dollars the forward-looking capital projects. But let me verify that real quick.
Yeah, if we could, because I do think that's important. We know that obviously costs have gone way up for construction, chemicals, everything. So want to make sure that we did calculate that. And with all the presentations we received, I candidly don't remember.
If you would.
Yeah, these are.
Did you get your answer on the full cost recovery?
He said yes, full cost recovery is yes.
Full cost recovery from what?
Full cost recovery of the total eligible cost basis, so the expansion-related system assets and capital improvements.
From the impact fees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I'm sorry, what was the answer to the rate of inflation?
We've accounted for compounding inflation into the future.
Okay, that was all the questions. I do have comments, but, and I guess, did you have any comments at all?
No,
Okay.
I'm good. I think you actually
Okay.
went to where I was going to go.
So really quickly, I understand the concerns from residents about trying, getting the max impact fees. I was 100% on that train. I was actually over that train. I wanted to see if we could go above what the statute allows, which there is a Florida statute that has limitations on these things. And I wanted us to find an exception to go above and beyond these. That's how much I was very much concerned about the costs of growth. But in looking and picking apart the numbers for hours and hours and working with our consultant back and forth for hours and hours, these numbers support what we are proposing here today, support full cost recovery of the cost of growth. So it would be unreasonable for us as a council to charge any more if we can't use those impact fees for the statutory purpose for which they can be used, which is only the cost of growth. We can't use them for other reasons. So I understand the residents' concerns. I had the same concerns. But the fact of the matter is what's being proposed is reasonable. It is what we are projecting growth will cost. And I'm confident that this is the right move for us to make. I appreciate the HBA coming out and speaking in support of it, because obviously I've disagreed with the HBA on a lot of other things, but this is reasonable. I do think that it needs to happen now. I hope that, I make a motion to go ahead and approve the ordinance for the second read. Hope that I can get a second and
I
consensus.
will second your motion.
Is there any additional discussion?
The only comment I had was for the one speaker about the flood insurance. Since Palm Coast does participate in the NFIP, the National Flood Insurance Program, even if you're not inside of a flood zone, you will, by law, you're allowed to have flood insurance. So, Roger Dodger, just if anybody has been told no by their insurers, that's not true.
Okay, then I will go ahead and.
And I just, actually, since Mr. Kloufus made that comment, I want folks to realize that when a person moves here and they buy a new house, yes, they end up paying those impact fees to the builder, but also they move here, if they're not from Florida, they don't have portability on their homestead, they come here and they pay a lot more taxes than we do. So it actually helps us, because, you know, you might be paying, whatever, $2,500, $3,000, and your neighbor who just moved in could be paying $6,000, $7,000. So those fees do help us too. You heard it firsthand.
And I do, Mayor, to give you some credit as to your point, because I do recognize your point of wanting to make sure that we are still providing a housing component that does not become unaffordable. We are making a very strong effort in this city and in this county to improve our workforce, to ensure that we've got people who are moving here that are actually a part of the workforce. And in order to do that, we need to make sure we're supporting first responders, nurses, people who are, you know, working in our city staff that are boots on the ground every day, that, you know, aren't, and this is no offense to our executive staff because they do a great job, but the guys who are digging the ditches and doing the hard work, they need to be able to afford to live here too. So we have to strike a balance between what we are going to pass on to these new homeowners and what we want to make sure we are not putting on the backs of our current homeowners. And I just feel this is the right balance.
Okay. Again, and I appreciate your comment, because certainly, you know, an underpinning of my concept is that we have all at one time or another agreed that the affordability or attainability of housing for our first responders, teachers, service workers, medical people, and on is an important vision of this city council. So striking a balance is very important, and as I alluded to before, we will be revisiting these utility numbers. I just want to make sure that our house is in good order to maximize and exploit the best use for these fees. That was only my comment. Councilwoman Hyder, I think you had some comments.
Quick comments. With everything that's been heard here tonight, I do not want to see any fees being raised on the residents here in Palm Coast. I think that they're suffering enough already with everything across the board that has increased in our daily cost of living. So I don't want to see any fees increase there. I'm not sure how much we're able to increase impact fees. What is the maximum that it could be increased to?
The full cost recovery fees that we calculated. So for water, I believe that was 35.7%, and for wastewater, just under 25%.
So, again, with all that's been said here tonight, and I do listen to our residents, I would be in agreement with increasing the impact fees to the maximum at this time.
But we can't.
So now,
do that though. Can we have some clarity though on what
Councilman Clue, just for a second, just to reel us back in for a minute. So we are hearing an ordinance for the second read, and the amount of that increase is a part of what we're considering now. So just so we're on the same page here, right?
So, yeah, so I think it's important, and I think this was your point, Councilman Kloufus. Can you please explain what the because statutorily, there's a structure that if it goes to 50%, there's only so much you can raise per year, right? But We are at the max statutorily because of the full cost recovery.
Yes.
So that needs to be very clear.
Right, yes.
And so if our consultant and staff can please explain that, even though, yes, technically we could go up in the actual numbers, we'd have to be able to justify that based on what the cost of growth is going to be. We are at the max based on what the cost of growth is going to be. Is that not correct?
That is correct, and
Okay,
you
so-
said it a lot cleaner, I think, than we were.
So, Councilman, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want to make sure we were understanding that. Go ahead.
That's exactly where I was going. And my comments are such that, and this is a very clear point, is that the future impact fees that are collected are going to offset the impact that these users have on our system. And I think the sentiment is, hey, we need builders to pay more than their share that they're going to impact, so that, you know, the impact they've had on us, that these impact fees can contribute to that. And that's not going to occur. What we were suggested to implement was a volumetric increase for usage for the highest users in Palm Coast. Now that would actually, that would actually be, you know, putting the burden on individuals who are using our system the most. A volumetric approach would probably, 90% of us in this room would have only seen the minimal amount of increase. So these impact fees that we are raising are not going to be able to impact anything besides than what they're actually hooking up into our system. A better approach for maintaining a system like this would be also adopt a volumetric approach that puts the burden on the biggest users of our system. So if someone's using 50,000 gallons a month, they bear that burden instead of the homeowners, which everyone in here, you know, I agree, we are all feeling the impacts of an economy that, you know, it is what it is. But with the suggestions and the matrices that we are shown, we could have implemented a volumetric approach that would have only put that burden on the top users of our system, which is really who I think that we're after here. We're trying to place the blame of what's happening to our system right now for future impact and, you know, be able to construct something that fixes our problems today. But where we really are able to actually point and say, hey, users today need to pay for their fair share, it would be a volumetric approach, and I'm sure 90% of us, barring some business owners, would have been in that category where we're just normal homeowners, and we have a $150 a month, you know, water bill on average, or $200, and it wouldn't have spiked this huge exuberant amount. So I just want to reiterate that there's two separate things we're looking at here. One is the cost to run our system, and then impact fees are only able to be used in a future manner that offset the impact of that home, whereas a volumetric approach would have been able to supplement this in such a way. So I digress, but I have to assure that I have at least tried to educate us in a way that a volumetric approach versus an impact fee there is serving two separate purposes.
Thank you for the explanation. And with that, if there's no additional discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I think we have one, we have a second.
So let's state it because it's important, just if you would.
Thierry?
A motion to approve the ordinance with the raise in the impact fees to the maximum.
So I have a motion from.
That's listed in Exhibit A.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilwoman Pontieri and
I second
a
it.
second from Vice Mayor Danko. So if you would, any other discussion? Then I would ask for a roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Danko?
Yes.
Councilmember Hyder?
Yes.
Councilmember Clufus?
Aye.
Councilmember Pontieri?
Yes.
Mayor Alfin?
No.
The motion passes 4-1.
So we now move to item number H, which are resolutions. And number 5, Counselor, if you would read that in for us, please.
Resolution, Seminole Woods Investment LLC Supplemental Agreement relating to pre-annexation agreement, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, approving the supplemental agreement between the City of Palm Coast and Seminole Woods Investment LLC relating to pre-annexation agreement, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute said agreement, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for implementation actions, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Counselor. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. For the record, Fong Wing, Senior Planner with Community Development. This is the supplemental agreement for Seminole Woods investment annexation. The location of the Seminole Woods properties are located together at the BJ's Wholesale Club. Basically, it's south of State Road 100 and adjacent to west of Racetrack Gas Station. Here is a close-up of the site plan. As you can see, the out parcels in front of BJ's Wholesale Club, there are 5 out parcels owned by the Seminole Woods Investment. A brief background relating to the pre-annexation. Approximately over a year ago, the city of Palm Coast, Seminole Woods Investment, and BJ's Wholesale Club entered into a pre-annexation agreement. Basically, it outlines the effective date for the annexation as 60 days after the issuance of Certificate of Occupancy, CO, by Flagler County for Phase 1, which is basically the BJ's Wholesale Club development as defined in the pre-annexation agreement. The Seminole Woods Investment, who owns the 5 out parcel, is requesting the effective date of the annexation for Phase 2 to be set at a later date. And here's the reason why. However, the Phase 1 effective date of annexation for BJ's Wholesale remains as outlined in the pre-annexation agreement. Since Seminole Woods Investment property development has already started in Flagler County permitting process, so to ensure efficient development without interruption due to annexation and then be under a different agency using a different permitting process or enforcing a different permitting process for another agency. So Seminole Woods Investment is requesting Phase 2, the effective date of annexation shall be 60 days after issuance of the last Certificate of Occupancy for Phase 2, or December 31st, 2025, whichever occurs first. There's also another clause to that. If the last CO for Phase 2 has not been issued by December 31st, 2025, but there is an active site development permit for one or more of the lots that comprise Phase 2, then Phase 2 annexation effective date shall be extended to the date of the last CO for Phase 2, or December 31st, 2026, whichever occurs first. So the latest possible effective date for Phase 2 would be December 31st, 2026, or earlier. And the reason for that is that as when they initially started development over a year ago, they never anticipated the out parcels are doing so well. As of today, one of the out parcels already has a structure erected already, and so they are going almost in front of BJ's Wholesale Club. So that's one of the reasons why they are requesting this. And in addition to that, Seminole Woods Investment agrees to pay the difference between the amounts due for transportation and fire services impact fees in Flagler County and the amounts that would be due for those fees in the city pursuant to the city's impact fee schedule. So with that, planning staff recommends City Council approve Resolution 2024, the supplemental agreement for Seminole Woods Investment annexation. The applicant is here and available if you have questions, and I'm also available if you have questions.
So just a question. I don't know if you really spoke about it. Are we required by agreement or by law to accept this annexation because of a prior water-oriented agreement that the city has with the county?
Yes, we had what we call an agreement among this Flagler County, the city, and for a certain particular area, this is one of the area that as soon as they basically request for water services, then they are required to be annexed into the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Does everybody hear that part? We should have led with that probably, but okay. Questions from city council comments?
I have no questions.
So I have a couple questions. The first being, and maybe I'm just not understanding, why are we pushing out when they're going to be annexed? And if they're going to be a part of the city, but not annexed yet, who's going to be approving the development, the process, things like that in the meantime? Will it be the county or will it be the city?
Yeah, that's where the issues lie. Currently, BJ is moving along in the development of the BJ's Wholesale Club. Over a year ago, they never anticipated the out parcel will come along that quickly. And they already started development of some of the out parcels. I believe they secure 4 out of 5 parcels already. And that's one of the reasons that they would like to continue the development process in the county instead of, if it's triggered by BJ's annexation date, then they will be basically in the middle of the development process in the county. That basically result in either the county, the city enforcing the county's basically permitting process. So, or the applicant would have to basically come into the city and follow a different development process. So that's the issues of the request. But the applicant is here and they can explain further.
Mr. Livingston?
Good evening, Jay Livingston here on behalf of
Could you
Seminole Woods
simplify that for us?
Yeah, and this is it's a symptom of how the annexation statute is drafted and just the lack of 20/20 hindsight at the time that we entered into the pre-annexation agreement. We expected that BJ's would be the first building up, and that would trigger the annexation, and then the out parcels would develop. That was the anticipation when we entered into it. Fortunately, I think for both the developer and the city and the county, because we're going to be bringing in good commercial projects that are going to create jobs, the out parcel activity picked up a lot quicker than we expected. The problem is, and this is directly to your question, the problem is the way that the annexation statute is drafted. When you annex a piece of property into the city, it doesn't automatically become subject to the city's land development code. In order to bring the land that's annexed in under the regulatory structure of the city, you first have to adopt a comprehensive plan amendment and make it part of your comprehensive plan. Then you have to adopt a rezoning map change to make it part of your zoning code. And at that stage, it's subject to the city's land development code. Section 171.062 subsection 2 specifically says that after a property is annexed in, it's subject to a county land use plan and county zoning or subdivision regulations, and these regulations remain in full force and effect until the municipality adopts a comprehensive plan amendment. So because we have these active developments, we couldn't, we'd have to stop everything under the city's code, or city would have to figure out a way to implement, inspect under the county's code after that annexation. Or we would have to work out an arrangement with the county to have them do it after the annexation. And because we're moving along, we wanted to just modify the effective date so that kind of tracks with actually what's happening on the ground. This was contemplated in the original agreement. There was the possibility of maybe one out parcel coming in, and it specifically says in the agreement that the city will cooperate with that development. The annexation agreement also says that until the annexation is, or if the ordinance is adopted, which is triggered by BJ's getting its CO, then the out parcels would pay the impact fees in the city. Because the development proceeded differently than we anticipated, we came to the city and said, look, we'd like to just stay in the county, but because the expectation was maybe one parcel would get in through the county without paying any city impact fees, let's just pay the difference. So we're paying all the impact fees of the city and allow the development to proceed under the city's code. Under the county's code. So that's really the only real change, is that we're just letting the county finish out the out parcels, but had all of these out parcels developed before BJ's was completed, then no impact fees would be paid to the city under the agreement. And so that was how we approached the staff, to say, we need to restructure this, but we understand that there was an anticipation of impact fees being paid to the city. It is important to understand that utility impact fees those will all be paid to the city because the city is the utility provider. So was always the case. The impact fees have already been paid for BJ's, and they'll be paid on an individual basis for the out parcels. So that's not changing. It's just the two impact fees that you have that overlap with the county impact fees, which is transportation and fire services. And this just allows us to efficiently move forward without putting a burden on staff. When we already have a plat that's approved, we've already conformed the plan. Staff has had the benefit of reviewing the plans because you have a joint planning agreement with the county for the airport, properties around the airport. So there's already been a collaborative planning effort. And this is just going to streamline that process to allow the annexation to occur in a way that will occur once the developments are completed and they come into the city.
Okay, I appreciate that, and that was going to be one of my questions too, is, how are we working hand in hand with the county to make sure, our preferences, being that this will be city property, are not being undermined. My last question was, will this affect tax revenue at all? If we push this out, will this affect tax revenue to the city?
Well, once the annexation is completed, now BJ's is still going to be annexed on the same timeline. So they'll come into the city, and that will be out of the tax base under the original time frame of the annexation agreement. The out parcels will come under the city's tax base once they're completed. In terms of how the property appraiser assesses the taxes, the actual increase in assessments from the development really won't happen until the CO is issued. And so at that point, you're going to have your annexation occur once those build out. And the good news is we're not saying we have one under construction, so we want to have all 5 of them stay out of the city until they're completed. We have 4 that are active, and they're pursuing the 5th one now. And we don't anticipate there'll be a major delay. But this just gives it time to work through the county's process, so we don't have to go through those land use changes and hold up the development that, as you know, I mean, the last thing we anticipated to be the first structure visible on the site to be one of the out parcels. It was supposed to be the BJ's. So as you drive by, you can see how we didn't have the benefit of that crystal ball when we started this with the original pre-annexation agreement.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Vice Mayor, comment?
I have no comments.
Council, no?
No questions.
Nope.
As long as we're not getting, jammed at any type of impact fees or anything like that, we're not, I don't want to use any verbiage here, but yeah, I'm okay.
And I don't know if it's really an appropriate question, but just out of curiosity, the company, BJ's, whatever, their decision to begin their planning and their work and all this stuff with the county was based on what?
Do you want to address that? I'm going to have a representative from
Okay,
Seminole.
I appreciate it.
They were directly involved with that, with the development planning.
Sure. Mark Hudgens, Seminole Woods Investments. We're the owner of the out parcels there. 1490 Florida A1A in Satellite Beach is our office. We worked with BJ's, obviously, in conjunction. There was a joint agreement with us and the city and BJ's for the original pre-annexation agreement. The scheduling and everything for BJ's, the site work and everything else took a lot longer to get BJ's online than we hoped that it would. We have gotten, like Jay mentioned, a lot of good interest on the out parcels, and that's been great news for everybody, including BJ's, the city, and the county, and us, obviously. And where we are right now is exactly what Jay mentioned, proceeding with that development as the tenants came along, ready to submit plans, ready to submit permits and everything. The reviewing jurisdiction was Flagler County, and so they proceeded with that process. We specifically allowed for, in the original pre-annexation agreement, 1 parcel. We've been in conversations with staff for the better part of a year, probably, since last summer when we started having some of these schedule issues where BJ's was a little bit later than we hoped that they would be, and the out parcels started coming online a little bit faster than we had expected, to talk about structuring this supplemental agreement. It's taken some time with the city attorney transitions and whatnot to actually negotiate the agreement to get to this forum, but the conversations have been happening for several months now as we've seen these schedules issues start to formalize in front of us. And during that time, we've kept the process going with the county to submit permits for 2 out of the 5 out parcels, or have full site plan approval through Flagler County. But the city has, to answer your question, the city has reviewed those plans, architectural and site plans, and approved them as well. So the city's happy with architecture and site layout and everything from a conformance standpoint with the nature of the city.
All right, thank you. And just back to my question, you mentioned that the you went back, the overviewing entity was the county. So my question is, why? Why was the county chosen to begin the project as opposed to the city of Palm Coast?
From the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the property is in unincorporated Flagler County, so they are the jurisdiction, they were the jurisdiction. The reason for the annexation is really a separate issue, I think, maybe for obtaining water and sewer services.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, it was something that would have to happen. You know where I'm going, Jay. Help me out.
Okay, yeah. We'll let the lawyer answer that.
Yeah, that's a good question. This property was in the county.
Right.
And BJ's came along with Seminole Woods' involvement, and they found the site. If they wanted to actually move forward in the city, it would have been a multi-step process. First annexation, then the land use change, then the rezoning, before they could have ever gotten to site development.
And that's what I'm curious about. I
so,
want to
yeah.
better understand what their hesitation with working directly with the city on day one was.
A good example would be Airport Commons. The same process was approached there. We had a development, we had commercial users that wanted to be in that development, and time is of the essence in a lot of these situations, pricing and everything else. So they wanted to get started on their permitting without being held up by the annexation, land use change, and rezoning process.
Fair enough.
But because of the settlement agreement, the annexation was ultimately a foregone conclusion. We entered into the pre-annexation agreement to lay out a plan, and we're here because that plan didn't quite match with the reality in terms of the outparcels.
Very good, I think. Any questions or additional comments from city council members? Jay, thank you for that.
No, none.
Okay. So then I would open up this item for the public. Does any member of the public wish to comment to me on this item?
Celia Puglisi in Palm Coast on Harbor since '91. I want to make sure through all this dual process, might be maybe some other reason, but I didn't. We need probably hard to find. But anyway, I want to make sure that we get our impact fees. Whatever it is the deal, if it's annexed by the city, we get our impact fees.
Right.
Because when here we speak about all this new tax revenue and welcome BJ's and all those other stores in the parcels because they will create jobs. This is a positive. But let's keep in mind this, that when we talk about our taxes, right? Oh, all this revenue and taxes. Let's think about this. Just look at each other's ad valorem taxes that we get once a year in our homes. And out of these ad valorem taxes, the county takes 42%. The city only gets 24%. The rest goes to the school and whatever else. So when we are talking, oh, all this new growth, and it's so good, all this new housing we're having, all this increase in taxes, our Councilman Danko, you know what? We only get 24% for the city that has to, we have to do all the services for everybody, especially the roads that are in bad shape. And the county takes 42% of our ad valorem. Let's keep that in mind.
Thank you for that comment. Any other members of the public wish to comment on this item at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment. Any further discussion by city council members?
Just the fact that if we were looking for a way to be able to sustain our current infrastructure, a sizable user of a volumetric increase would be BJ. So I just want everybody to know that if we would have hiked the rates up earlier, the people who would have been paying more in the audience, no offense.
Noted.
Yes.
So with that, would you like to make a motion?
Go ahead, Nick.
Vice Mayor,
No, Nick.
don't fight over it.
Yes,
Okay.
move to approve.
So,
I'll second it.
okay. Councilman Danko has motioned to approve the resolution as presented, and Vice Mayor Danko has seconded. Any further
I
discussion?
don't think I did both things. I think Mr. Kloufis went first.
Okay, then I stand corrected. Any other discussion?
Can't be two places.
Then let's
Right,
go
Nick?
ahead and do a roll call.
Try.
Vice Mayor Danko?
Yes.
Councilmember Hyder?
Yes.
Councilmember Kloufis?
Aye.
Councilmember Pontieri?
Yes.
Mayor Alfin?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We now move to agenda item H, number 6. Counselor, if you would read that in for us, and then we have a presentation.
Amending Resolution 2023-131, Parks and Recreation fee structure, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, approving amending the Parks and Recreation fee structure, providing for severability conflicts, implementing actions, and an effective date.
Mayor and City Council, James Hurst, Parks and Recreation Director. At the request of council, returning to council to discuss from your February 20th workshop to provide some cost recovery data for our golf course fees. So just really quick, some of these slides you've already seen through the past presentation, but here's just a little bit of background. We came October 10th, returned on February 20th, and then we're returning again from the February 20th meeting. These are just a quick snapshots of the number of rounds we've had at the golf course for the last 5 years. Here is the fee comparison for 18 holes that is within our those surrounding golf courses within Palm Coast. So we have the off-season May 1st to October 31st, and then we have the peak season between November 1st and April 30th. And then here is the quick fee comparison for 9 holes. Again, the off-season is May through to October, and the peak season is November through to April. This would be part of a proposed change authorizing the city manager or designee to review the Parks and Recreation fee schedule each year to administer a CPI adjustment. And then here is what council asked us to work on. So these were our projections for the golf course by rounds and the fee increase. So when we looked at potential cost recovery for the golf course and adding to our fees, the last 3 columns there, or 3 rows, sorry, was $6.86, $7, and then $7.25 were the 3 that we recognize that could potentially get us to cost recovery at the golf course, and that obviously depends year by year with weather and things like that. Then we looked, and then just really quick, we had our current fees versus our proposed fees for 18 holes. We had our current versus proposal fees for 9 holes. And then after some analysis and from last meeting, staff is recommending an increase of $3.50 on our presented golf fees. And then I'm open up for any questions or comments.
James, I have a question. I'd be okay with the $3.50 if we really boosted the out-of-state residence fees. We have a lot of folks that come here from New York, Connecticut, Michigan, wherever, Pennsylvania, where they're used to paying 60, 70, 80, $1.25. I mean, I think, why give it away? These folks are coming here, they're getting our sunshine, they're getting to come to Florida, they're used to paying really high prices. I don't think we should be giving it away. I think giving our residents a break is a good thing, obviously, but they're our residents. But we should not be subsidizing visitors, out-of-state residents, and their golf game. I really think that we either increase it more than the $3.50, but I think a better way to do this is to increase it for the out-of-state residents. And we get a lot of out-of-state residents, and they're going to be willing to pay more to play here.
So was that $3.50 for local residents? And
I can live with that if we really boost the out-of-state.
Okay.
Because it's just not fair to our taxpayers, to subsidize folks from Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. It's just not.
I don't disagree with that. I think that's a fair assessment. My question is, what I would like to see is an automatic 3% raise. I mean, we just know consistently we're seeing this CPI. It's just, it is what it is. It's not going away. So I know that in what's currently being proposed, we're giving the city manager or designee the right to make that decision every year, but I don't even know why that needs to be a decision that needs to be made. To me, it should probably go up by 3% each year because the cost of us maintaining it is going to go up most likely each year. I mean, is that a fair assessment? Has that been pretty consistent?
I think that would be a change of ordinance too. That's why we propose that change in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the 350 raise puts us even above some of the other courses. So for the Florida residents and the Palm Coast residents, I'm on board with that. I don't know what the suggested raise though would be for public and out of state.
Well, when you consider how much they're paying when they come from those northern states, we could do a huge increase. You know, again, my thing is also, I don't want us hurting our private courses. They are businesses. We have a beautiful course, as Nick Klufis said. We're almost a victim of our own success, and Nick knows how beautiful that course is. But, you know, taking care of our own is one thing, but I think we should be looking at a much, and I don't have a number. I'd like to get a number from you guys, but I think we should be increasing it dramatically to those folks that do not live here, that are not taxpayers here.
Could any of our numbers within that table work, do you think, or do you?
I'm sorry, James?
Any of those numbers within the table? Sorry.
Well, let's go back and look.
Well, here's the question though I also have. How are we knowingly comparing what these courses are? When is the last time you guys played both courses?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever played either of the courses, Ms. Pontieri, or Councilwoman Pontieri, or Vice Mayor?
Which courses are you talking about? I've played Palm Harbor and Pine Lakes.
You played Pine Lakes? Okay, so
Yes.
you have a good comparison. So when we're looking at this, how do we actually know? We're not up here, we're comparing apples and oranges. How do we actually know what we're comparing?
I'm not looking at comparing the condition of the golf course. My main chief concern here is that we are getting full cost recovery every year, which is why I proposed the 3% increase. But if we are keeping the Palm Coast resident rate lower and the Florida resident rate lower than what some of these other competing courses are offering, it seems like we would naturally have to raise the out-of-state rate a little bit more in order to provide that balance. So it's like a give-take, I guess. But my chief concern is that any capital improvements are covered over, you know, when we're looking at replacing golf carts, things like that, over the 5 years, that's included in this assessment. And James and I have spoken about this, it is. And that we're looking at possible rate of inflation, and that we're also looking at staff time. So a lot of the maintenance that goes into these courses is done by staff, but we have to that still has a price tag to it, right? And you're still pulling staff hours, and that still has a number that's attached to it. So as long as those amounts are included in this, great, but, you know, like I said, I'm not opposed to saying, okay, because we're offering a lower rate to Florida and Palm Coast residents, that means we have to raise the out-of-state residents a little bit more.
I would just ask, we don't approach all amenities the same. And I said a victim of our own success, and really I shouldn't have said that. What I should have said is we're a victim of tremendous management. Mitch and his team have done a tremendous job. They have turned that place around from literal dirt back, you know, my best friend's grandmother lived on hole 13, and when that whole course shut down, it turned the C-section into a desolate area. It was sad. And then when we were able to get this thing back going, it really brought life to that area. Now we have the Fairway apartment building, basically the whole residential area over there. I don't think it's gated, but it may be. But I mean, it was desolate. When it was down at the bottom of the barrel, this is an amenity that we brought back to revitalize the city of Palm Coast. And if we're a victim of our own success in the sense that we have tremendous individuals who are not only operating it but maintaining it, I feel like we should try to expose this to as many people as possible in our community. And I think the split's probably like 90-10 for out-of-state to in-state or in-city residents. Is that pretty?
Sorry,
90-10.
Oh, can you repeat the?
Out-of-state residents versus Palm Coast residents playing rounds of golf at Palm Harbor.
Yeah, I believe you're correct, yeah.
Yep, I think it's somewhere 90-10, and my question would be, are there other ways for us to lower the expenses or maybe draw out these, cart replacements and things like that to be able to keep the prices of our amenity reasonable? And that's what gets me, is that we're treating this amenity a little bit different than we treat other amenities. We don't charge for Holland Park, we don't charge for people to go to, any of our trails or awesome biking systems. The only other thing I would say is that some of the individuals that use this, they are residents. If it's 90% the residents, then the burden of this increase will be, pretty much handled by them. But I would like to see this facility being, on the forefront of the city of Palm Coast, because we've done such a tremendous job revitalizing it. We have such a great staff over there. And I've gotten feedback from golfers too. It's just, we're kind of isolating the golfers into this little silo and making them feel bad that they're golfers and using our amenity versus using some of the other amenities and, that don't require payment.
So I have a suggestion. Do you have a comment before I make my suggestion?
Yes, I'm in agreement with Vice Mayor Danko that my main concern would be that we're not hurting the other privately owned golf courses, because I was contacted by one of the courses, and they reached out to me and they felt like, hey, what's going on here? We're going to be put out because of the difference in the fees for the different golf courses. I'm not a golfer, but I am concerned about the community.
James, walk me through this. Some portion or percentage of your overall revenue is generated from tournaments and special golf groups. Can you give me an idea as to what the magnitude of that contribution is?
And in 23, it ended just over 44,000. And then so far, this in 24, year to date, it's just below 15,000.
What?
Dollars.
Dollars?
Yeah.
So as a percentage to total, what does that represent? What's the impact of, here's where I'm getting, here's where I'm going. It's my understanding that we do negotiate very favorable rates for tournaments and for special, let's call them groups, I don't know what you call them. And I want to know what impact that has, because in another way to help courses be competitive, to level the playing field, not to hurt our residents, is to look at this if it's a significant enough portion.
Yeah, when we kind of think about tournaments, we think of probably a little bit bigger impact to the whole community as well. So some of these tournaments, we have two that come pretty much every year. It's the Florida State Golf Association.
Yeah.
Then, they bring the best juniors on certain age groups to the city, and then that kind of entices people to stay. Economic impact potentially could be one of the benefits and impacts that these tournaments make. Yeah.
So whether those tournaments are played at Palm Harbor or one of the other courses, you're still going to get those folks coming through our community.
Yes, correct.
Right?
You would want to drive away tournaments from our own municipal course to other courses?
No, but I
like.
do subscribe to what the others have said, that if we are undercutting the cost of tournaments, we're taking, in my opinion, an unfair advantage of the marketplace. In other words, we're talking about raising to $350 in order to help equalize the playing field, if you will.
Sure.
Why wouldn't we look at the same thing with regard to tournaments and groups?
Why would we look at it this way versus when we talk about garbage hauling, think about in-housing it, and potentially setting off hundreds of thousands of dollars of private business that currently hauls away trash? We are in isolation. This is an instance where all of a sudden we're concerned about, diverging from private business. I feel like we are being, bless you. I feel like we are under the veil of lobbying here. This is an instance where we can apply those things, but we don't all apply those across the board. So I don't follow that school of thought 1,000%. We're kind of saying that this is competitive to private industry and that's a bad thing?
It is.
Well, no, it's a balance, in other words.
Balance,
So
but-
you yourself said this is a unique and special amenity, and that we don't treat all of our amenities exactly the same.
Yep.
So what we're trying to do is come to a least offensive or least costly solution that helps the private courses stay in business, because certainly the loss of a private course would negatively impact the community. There's no question, we've seen it happen before. Now, I can't forecast that would be the result, but it's a possibility. So anything we can do to ensure that all of our courses are healthy and we continue to enjoy as many rounds as we possibly can at Palm Harbor, I think would be a favorable solution.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
How much, I guess, what percentage of a discount are we giving people who come here for tournaments? And with this rate increase, I presume that those charges would go up because
And if
it
I may,
wouldn't
the
stay flat.
question you might want to include compared to the other courses. In other words, are we undercutting or are we similar in tournament fees to the other courses?
Yeah, I mean, do we have that data?
Yeah, so I don't have the percentage, but I have the dollar amounts. So we charge for each tournament $43. But depending on the season, our peak season we're 43 for Palm Coast residents, 53 for non-residents, and then in our off season we're 36 for residents and 48 for the public.
So could we make sure then that those go up as well? I mean, I think they should.
Yeah.
I don't want to drive tournaments away, but if we're going up on the other rates, I would think that we would go up on the tournament rates as well.
And some of these tournaments can be local organizations as well. A good example. Oh, sorry.
Councilman Clufus, I think you have some more input, so let's share it with us.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, in the same sense that we're speaking, we're also going to be negatively impacting a private business that exists on our golf course, right? Yeah. So at what point do we start taking that impact into consideration? I mean, we have some of these tournaments. I mean, the PGA, the teen tournament, the youth tournament, I mean, that is a tremendous event. You drive by that place, they have the flags and everything. It really looks legitimate. And I'm sure there's an impact on that to loopers. I can't imagine there's not. And if we're talking about moving tournaments away, all of a sudden these are things that impact not just the cost recovery of the golf course, but also our business partners that have partnered with us in the...
Now, is there not something to be said that a tournament is going to choose a course solely because of price, or perhaps because they think that it's a great course like you do, and it has loopers? Might they be willing to pay an additional fee to continue to use that premium amenity?
Sure, but if we're reaching cost recovery, do we have any other amenities that we're trying to get to this for-profit model that all of a sudden we're trying to balance out?
I think you yourself said this was a unique amenity, so it's unique.
Sure, yeah, and I feel like we're bowing a bit to private business here because we have been approached from a local golf course that said, hey, if you raise your rates a few dollars, it's going to send more business this way, and that would help sustain us. If we have any validity to that, we should all share these things that say, hey, if we raise our rates this amount, this will help save a golf course. If we could have that data from an external partner or a business leader in our community, I would be wholeheartedly willing to look at that stuff. But right now, we're just kind of armchair economists.
Agreed.
Thinking,
Agreed. And we don't know
we
don't know what the downside or repercussions are exactly.
Sure.
Nor do we know what the real forecast or demise of another course might be. It's like it's threatening, but I don't know what that exactly means either. However, we do need to get to a finish line here. So what I would ask is that are we willing to consider the increase that they're suggesting and then continue the discussion for the other components when that data becomes available? Would that be acceptable to everyone?
That's not acceptable to me. If
Okay.
we're just talking about a $3.50 increase,
Right.
then I would say, if that's just all we're dealing with tonight, then I would say make it $5.
Could it-
Let's make it a little higher. But I think in the
So
audience,
you
we have
changed-
an owner
So
of
you
one of our golf courses.
you were okay with 350 at the beginning, you've changed to 5. I'm just trying to
I'm just saying, I
following
would
the
be good
thought.
with the 350
Yeah.
if we increase the out-of-state fee much higher.
Okay, but you don't know,
That's where I'm good with
but
it.
you don't have a number for that yet.
Oh, we can figure a number out, but I think most importantly, we do have an
So
owner of a
what would
golf.
what would that
we-
number be?
Most importantly, we do have, in the public, out here, we do have an owner of one of our golf
Okay.
courses. I would like to hear from her, but I want to go back and address one thing with Nick, because this is a unique amenity. There's no question about it. But to me, it's still public versus private, and it would be like us opening a bowling alley. I'm sure we could have the nicest bowling alley in town if we put enough money into it, but that's not fair to a local business. It's not fair if we open any business. We really have no business being in business, is my view on this. It's not something government does well. And I would much rather see it in the hands of the free marketplace. I do not want to endanger our local golf courses. If we lost a golf course in the E section or in my section of the W section, the amount of tax dollars we would lose would be tremendous.
All right, so staff needs some direction from us. If 350
Could I
works-
recommend something really quick?
Go ahead.
Could it be possible to maybe do Palm Coast resident at $3.50, Florida resident at $5, and then out of state at $7.25 or $7.
That's a possibility, but again, I want to hear during public comment from the owner of one of our golf courses, but that's a good starting point.
Do you want to say that again?
$3.50 for the Palm Coast resident, $5 for the Florida resident.
Okay.
And then for out-of-state public, it would be $7 or $7.25.
Okay, so are we throwing darts at the board here?
Kind of, but
Okay.
it's a good start.
Well, so to your point, Vice Mayor, though, if we're not a business, which we're not, we really are looking at cost recovery here. If we're making money, in other words, if these rate increases end up creating a profit for the golf course, then what do we then use those monies for? Do they have to go back into the golf course, James?
I believe it goes back into the general fund.
General fund, yeah.
Okay, so,
We could use it for anything.
Yeah, but now you've got an alternative revenue stream, which is something you're opposed to
Well,
because you're
I'm
competing with the
yeah.
private sector, so
that is why
you can't
I
have it every
think
way.
I'm not looking for another revenue stream. I'm
Okay.
looking for leveling that playing field for our businesses.
Which generates the revenue stream
Well,
accordingly.
and again, your point on the tournaments,
Yeah.
yes, it has an impact on our community. It's a good impact. People come and spend money, but it doesn't mean they have to come to our golf course to get
Right.
that impact. And I think we need to make sure our rates are a little bit higher than that. And I have no doubt that if our rates go up, the local golf courses will raise theirs a bit too. I mean, a rising tide.
well, that's the whole point.
obviously. That's
the whole point.
Well, isn't that illegal? You can't price fix, can you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so we can't, that's a dangerous,
Serious.
that's a dangerous topic
No, I'm just
to
saying,
even
that's how the
broach.
marketplace works, though.
Well,
And-
that's capitalism. That's my point, though, too,
Well-
is some of these courses can offer a lower rate to Palm Coast residents to remain competitive, too. And I'm looking at, like Grand Reserve right now doesn't, neither does Cypress Knoll. So they have control of their own pricing and can do certain things as well. I appreciate, James, your proposal to kind of say, well, if we only raise PC residents by $250, and then we can offset that with the Florida resident rate and the public rate. My apprehension in just accepting that is that it does kind of sound like we're just throwing darts at the wall right now. We need to see what those numbers come out to, because what I don't want is for us to be, this is not a business. This is an amenity that we offer our residents, that I want to still be able to offer our residents, to where we aren't paying to allow people to golf, but we also aren't padding our general fund at the expense of, no pun intended, our residents who enjoy that golf course, a beautiful amenity for a reasonable fee right now. So it's, again, striking a balance.
So did you want to hear some public comment now? Are we, any other, do you want to hear public comment, and then we can come back for discussion? Would that be okay?
Sure. My only thing is,
Yeah.
we're working towards cost recovery. I think that's one thing. But the other thing I would like to mention is that, we say governments aren't good at business and things. When I got elected in 2016, the golf course was losing about $250,000 a year because it was being managed by Kemper Sports. Today, we're almost at break even. Bar if we extend out the golf cart replacements, over a 5-year timeline horizon, investment horizon, we are pretty much at cost recovery. And I just want to say, we weren't bad at this. We did a really, really, really good job, and that's a testament to the staff and everyone who's put effort into making sure that it's one of the best amenities that we have in Palm Coast. So I just wanted to make sure that we didn't generalize.
Oh, no question on that, Nick,
Yeah.
at all, and that's not what this conversation's about.
Sure.
No question. Everyone did a great job.
They still are.
Honestly, I wish we had sold it. I wish another company had come in and done that great
We were
job.
we were the only ones willing to buy it.
Huh?
We were the only ones willing to buy it.
I understand that. But yes, we've done a great job. But we now have to level this playing field, though, for our local courses, our local businesses.
Okay, let's go ahead and open this up for public comment. Are there, yes, ma'am.
I'm Celia Puglisi, living here in 91. We, the people, all of us around this golf course, I own a property around the Palm Harbor Golf Course. We spend hours and hours fighting to recover it from Centex.
Yeah.
We spend in lawyers getting the last 16.5 acres that we got for free, okay? And we are not about to lose our golf course, because this golf course is an amenity created by ITT and it has the value of thousands of our houses around it. I am not a golfer, but I bought my house because of the golf course there, because it's an amenity and it's beautiful, and we fought with our blood for having it the way it is now. And taking out of the former administrators that were a disaster, they are doing a great job. Now, this golf course is an amenity and should be breaking even. I don't care about any other business, how they do around any other golf course. I wish for them the best. Now, my question is this. Is our golf course at the same price now as the other golf courses? Or are you bringing our golf course to be lower than the other golf courses? Because, you know, if you create increases, we're going to lose the business that we lost. We fought so hard to have the way it is. You know, when I own a print shop here in Palm Coast, I couldn't care about how much money my competitor was making. I just needed to know that I was making money. Now, the city is not to make money. This is an amenity. If we break even, this is enough. If we break even, no raises. So the other golf course are a business. It's different. We are not a business. We are an amenity. Please don't increase fees. That is going to drive our golf course down. It's doing great. I see it. I drive it. I live on it. And I drive around to see that it's successful and that it's well maintained. So please don't do it to us. I'm speaking for, I'm the president of my homeowners association. We work hard for everything for everybody here. I don't care that I live in an HOA, but we fight for everybody. And also there are other associations and many residents that live around the golf course that are not even in an association. And our homes are very valuable with the golf course there. So we are not to lose it. Be careful what you do with these fees. I have to put my faith on what he's proposing, but if he's going to be higher than the other golf course around with this increase, this is going to be the death of our golf course. That's the only thing I can say.
Your comment. Next speaker, please.
Robert McDonald, Palm Coast. I definitely agree with Vice Mayor Danko. We're not in the business of owning a golf course or a bowling alley or any other strip joint or whatever you want to buy. We should have sold that land years ago, because if we all lived another 100 years from now, we'll never break even for all the money we lost on that golf course. My second comment is, how are we going to determine who's a resident, who's a non-resident? By law, you can only have one legal residence. So if a guy like Councilman Danko lives in New York and he comes down here for the winter and wants to play golf, his driver's license says that he lives in the state of New York, that he's an outside resident, even though he may spend 5 or 6 months here in Florida. He's still not a resident of Palm Coast, and he's certainly not a resident of Florida. So we're not in a big hurry. It seems like we're in a big hurry to get this all done. Let the director go back, and maybe he should go out and check out other golf courses and see how they're doing as far as rates, and then come back and have a bigger perspective of saying, okay, this golf course is, because like Councilman Pompeo said, we don't want to chase the people away from playing golf, because there's other golf courses in St. Augustine and Ormond and Daytona that'll put our golf courses to shame. So we don't want to do that. But we want to attract, and we want to make this an amenity to our city. But we don't want to penalize or punish our residents. So we're talking about nickels and dimes here. Quarter here, 50 cents here. You know, it's like a crap game. No, we don't want to do that. Come out with a set price. It's going to cost, you know, yeah, I agree with Councilman Danko. New York State, New Jersey, it'll cost you $100 to play around the golf on a good golf course. But this is not New Jersey, this is Florida. People are not going to spend that kind of money to play golf, because then they're going to go someplace else or spend that money someplace else. And as far as spending money, if we attract more, quote, New Yorkers or Northerners down here, they're going to stay in our hotels. They're going to eat in our restaurants. They're going to spend money in our local shops. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. We're going to build a brand new BJ's. wow, people are coming down saying, wow, this city's great. It's got a big BJ's. Let's go shopping. So it's going to be one big collective. So let's not rush into this thing. The golf course is not going out of business. They're not going to go broke if we don't nickel and dime them and give them a quarter or give them a half a dollar. They're not going to go broke, I promise you. So postpone it. Thank you.
For your comment. Anyone else care to speak at this time? Seeing no one, maybe, yes? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Council. I was not prepared to speak this evening, but I do have to, number one, agree with Nick in that you guys have done a fabulous job on improving Palm Harbor to the point where it truly is a gem in this community. You've done that at the taxpayer's expense. In terms of James indicating that Palm Harbor's rates are in line with Cypress Knoll and Pine Lakes, that is correct because Palm Harbor sets the rate structure for golf in the city of Palm Coast. So as you provide a superior product, it is very challenging for other golf courses in the community to charge a rate higher than the city of Palm Coast, even if financially those golf courses need to charge more money. It's not a race to the top, it's not a race to the bottom. I agree with James that there should be some increases. I applaud the city for striving at this point in time to find some cost recovery in the operation of Palm Harbor Golf Club. As Nick has stated, that golf course wasn't in good shape when the city took it over. It was a significant investment by the taxpayers, of which I am one, to bring the course to the level that it is at right now. I understand that the city wants to protect that amenity. I understand that the city also wants to protect the senior citizens who have moved into this community. One of the prior speakers was concerned about her home values. She lives in the C section. I assure you that the people who live in the W section and the people who live in the E section are just as concerned about protecting their property values, protecting their investment that they have made into those sections of the community. It's important for everyone who moves to this city to have confidence that the city council is going to protect their investment by steering the city on the proper path. No, the city is not a for-profit entity. Parks and Recreation is not a for-profit entity. However, the city is in the golf course business. And I just want to say that they need to be careful in managing Palm Harbor. So, as Ed Danko said, the other golf courses in the community can survive. We do not have taxpayer subsidies to help us do that.
Thank you for your
Thank
comment.
you very much for your time.
Excuse me, you did not identify I know who you are, but please identify yourself.
I am Doreen Hall. I am one of the owners of Pine Lakes Golf Course. And if I can then put a footnote to that identity, I'm a small business owner who works 7 days a week to try to run a fiscally healthy business. And it is very challenging as somebody who is not even a David to compete against a Goliath.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mike Norris, 2 Lima Place. This is along the same vein, and it all goes back to how the city functions and events and stuff like that. The gentleman brought up the strawberries. It was comical. Okay, you can buy strawberries at Publix. But as Buckler's show, who sponsors this and rents the space out there, And, you know, I'm all for festivals and everybody having a good time and stuff, but we gotta know where that money's going and how it's spent, because I hate grift, and I hate people making a profit off our community without going to a good cause. Now, they state in their paperwork that the money, a portion of the proceeds goes to the Boys and Girls Club, a flag
I'm sorry,
in Volusia County.
is this regarding the golf fee?
No, this is about fees in general.
So why don't you hold that till final public comment, because
Well, I don't have time for that because
Well,
I've got to go to work in the morning.
the way we do these meetings is the agenda dictates the public
Well, I
comment.
know that, but this is public comment, and it's about fees. Does everybody
But it's
agree with that?
not relevant to the subject at hand. We're talking about the golf fees right now.
But it's still in the same vein. It's about how the fees are structured in the city.
All right, go ahead.
Would anybody would disagree with that?
Finish up, go ahead.
Okay. Well, this company, they say they give a portion to the Boys and Girls Club of Volusia and Flagler County. I'm hoping the city is tracking that and how much exactly they're giving, because this event, the lowest price that they're charging vendors to come on the site is $170. So you say 50 vendors at $70 a piece, that's around $9,000. Flats of strawberries are going for $33 a pop. So if they sold 500 flats of strawberries, that's over $16,000, almost $17,000. The emissions is the big problem with it for the community, and people have been complaining, because that's a lot of money. A family 4 times 6 is kind of a big deal. That's a lot of money for a family to come out. Plus all the strain it puts on our resources and our city center here. So just, with just, say 10,000 visitors, they're making over $100,000. And that's, you know, our return on investment as a city and the strain on our resources is kind of a big deal. So I'd just like to know that you guys are verifying people that are hosting festivals, and we are getting the most bang for our buck on them being in our city. And specifically, if they're given to a charity, that charity is being given the money they're supposed to be given. Because it seems to me it's kind of like a racket. That's a lot of money, and a lot of money out of our community for a festival. I know everybody enjoys it, but a lot of people are on fixed incomes, and it's kind of hard for them to pay that money to get their family out there. And these people are making a lot of money off our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is William Wan, the resident of Palm Coast. Just about Palm Coast is a golf course, 3 points. First, I very much agree with this gentleman's motion, say separate is resident or the other states, the peoples. This is very common. Before I moved to Florida, I live in the Massachusetts. For example, for Massachusetts resident, you can got nearby. I have the university is Massachusetts at Amherst. Their major part. It's a free library ID, so you can use their free library system free. But this is for residents, not for everybody's. Anybody, other state come, you can. Then you pay the money to get their IDs. So that's very common. Secondly, I think probably we need to get some dollar figure number. It's really can get if separate, it's a local person and outside persons. If we do can get the benefit in financially, we do it. Otherwise, we probably keep things simple. Don't need to make it too complex. Third things, this lady asked us if we get some money, can we use just reinvest to the golf course, or we can use for the other place, as long as no against to the law. We can be used for anything that's good for our city, for our people. This is because we are not a company. It's true, the cities, but we need to use money. That's why today we just have big discuss, say that some it's utility rates increase. Why? We need this money, right? So if we really can get some monies and not push the people out, then we can use this money for some things, for general fundings for our city, for our people.
Very good. Thank you for your comment. Are there any additional speakers that would like to address me or City Council at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment. Back to the dais for final
So,
discussion.
James, you had mentioned the number of 350, and said then 750, 725.
355 and 725, yeah.
25 for out-of-state
Yeah.
residents. I am good with that number right now, so I will make a motion to approve that number.
Hold on one second. Well, the ordinance called for a specific number, right?
Right.
Resolution.
The resolution
Yeah.
does. So you're changing that.
Well, I'm changing the number to what James
You're
said that he
changing the
was.
resolution.
Well, I'm changing the number, right?
Well, changing the resolution.
Right, but
So-
James said that he was good with
No,
it,
I
it would
understand.
work for him.
Let's get a legal, okay, because we're not discussing the same resolution now. So, Counselor.
We're amending the
How can we
No,
handle?
he's proposing,
So do you want to propose an amendment to the resolution?
I will propose to amend the resolution
Okay.
to the numbers that James
Which
mentioned,
are?
which was, I want to just make sure I got them right, James. Was it 350?
Yes. For Palm Coast resident, yes.
Yeah, and how much for Florida?
$5.
$5, and then
$7.25 for the-
$7.25 for out-of-state.
Okay, so there's a motion to amend the resolution according to those numbers. Is there a second? Hearing no second, then that the motion dies, and we still have the original ordinance to consider. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question, James? If we were to raise the PC resident rate by 250, but raise the public rate to the non-Florida resident rate by 5, because I'm thinking we probably get a lot more Palm Coast and Florida golfers than we get out-of-state golfers. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we only, because again, I want to protect our retirement community as much as I can, and our residents. If we only raise the PC rate by 250, but we go ahead and raise the public rate by 5, do you see that being more, I mean, do we still, A, think we're going to break even? Because again, that's my chief concern. We need to break even. And 2, will that still provide, kind of an equal balance between, since we're not going up the full 350 on the residents, but we're going up 5 on our non-Florida golfers?
I'm not really good at maths, but I think it would either get there or get us really close. And then I think it'd be a good balance as well, yeah.
So we'd keep the Florida rate, raise it by 350, raise the PC rate by 250, raise the non-Florida resident by 5.
Yeah.
So Vice Mayor, you're close
Yeah,
too.
that's kind of low. I mean,
We got to get consensus here, so.
yeah, I'm not good with that, because
Okay.
again, the people coming here from the north, and I know it's not, well, what did you say it was, James? 10%, 15%, something?
So for,
Out-of-state residents.
it was like 90-10, yeah, 10% of out-of-state,
10%.
yeah.
These folks are used to paying so much more money that they're not gonna bulk at the $750. They wouldn't bulk at $10, to be honest with you, compared to what they're paying up north. So I think we're giving those out-of-state folks a real major break. We're basically subsidizing their golf with tax dollars. I'm okay with the $250 or $3 on our local residents, but Florida state residents need to pay a little bit more too. Just because you live in Orlando, you shouldn't be subsidized here to such an extent. So those numbers just
Okay.
to me seem to be a little bit too low.
All right, Councilwoman Pontier, are you prepared to make a motion,
I'll make a motion to raise the PC rate by 250, the Florida rate by 3, and the out-of-state or the public rate by 5.
And then when would we next revisit this?
And can I include in that motion, I would like the 3% CPI to be automatic every year, rather than having to revisit it every year.
Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion, for sure.
Okay, so Councilman Cliff is second. Now, when do the rates get revisited again, or when should they be revisited again?
If we go with the proposed change, it'd be
Yeah.
annually.
So next year?
Yeah.
So this is a one-year deal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So my question, yes.
On the motion, on the floor, go ahead.
if our goal is to try for cost recovery, I feel cost recovery is something that is reasonable in this regard. I agree with the sentiment that we shouldn't be subsidizing anything in this regard, because you can argue that it is a golf course amenity. It's not something that is like really, structured for every person in Palm Coast, but that's where my pillar stands, is that we're here for cost recovery. So what I'd like to hear from James is if that gets us to cost recovery, but also I think we should be looking every year, if we're trying to break even, I think that's where we should be trying to be. So that's my position, is that I agree we should be trying for cost recovery, and that had been the goal since 2016. We were losing $250,000 a year. We said, let's get back to even. And that's the position we've held, forever. So with this, you don't necessarily, and because golf is you don't know how many rounds you're going to be having this upcoming year. There's so much fuzz involved with this. Are we getting close to cost recovery for this? I mean, do we need more analysis? Like, we're just kind of all armchair economists here.
I think we would get close to cost analysis with those changes. Yeah.
Okay.
And be able to revisit it again in another year.
Yep.
Councilwoman Hyder, I think you had a comment.
I would just like to say, is it really necessary that we make a decision on this tonight?
Well,
and my other,
only because I think we had asked this question last time, and they get a published.
We do have, like, as I said, off-season, peak season. So May 1st is when we would change fees to peak, to be off-season. Yeah, so that's our timeline goal.
If they miss the deadline, then it affects all of the pricing for the balance of the season. So I think staff is telling us that they need direction. Otherwise, it will confuse the pricing schedule for the balance of the year, it sounds like to me. But if you feel like additional data is needed, they did go out, somebody had suggested we go out and look at other courses and compare. We did that. Mm-hmm. So we've had several presentations on this item already. I'm not sure. I think what you're asking him is to forecast a crystal ball on what the effect would be on the number of rounds. I think when you boil it down, that's what you're asking. He can't answer that. In other words, how are people going to react? None of us know. I think that for a year, we could test and balance the field a bit. Maybe it's not perfect, but we'll have next year to refine it some more.
So I don't know how we deal with the 3% that you threw into your motion, because if it comes back next year,
you can change it.
It's going to be changed anyway, I would guess,
so,
right? So it's more of a...
Well, it'll be up to City Council to decide then. So adding the 3%, which is part of the motion, would be discussed again in the next time we discuss the rates.
So let me ask Councilwoman Pontieri. I don't mind the $250 for our own local residents. I think that's great. I don't want to give them the opportunity and make it the most affordable for them. Would you, if we did the $250, would you be good with upping the out-of-state rate to 7%?
It's only 10%. I don't think that would make too much of a, again, if we're looking at breaking even in cost recovery, then yes, I think 7 would be fine for out of state.
So would you go ahead and amend your motion?
Sure, I can amend the motion
I withdraw my second, right? Do I need to withdraw my second?
You do. I was gonna, I withdraw it, thank you.
Okay, yeah, so amending the motion to $250 for PC residents, $350 for Florida residents, 7 for out of state.
Yeah, I could live with that.
Very good. Okay, so we have a motion. May I have a second?
second.
I have a second from Councilwoman Hyder. Is there any additional discussion? We've had public comment, then I would go ahead and I guess I better do a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Danko?
Yes.
Councilmember Hyder?
Yes.
Councilmember Clufus?
Reluctantly, yes.
No, yes or no?
Aye.
Councilmember Pontieri?
Yes.
Mayor Alford?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
All right, we now move to our consent agenda, item I. Are there any items in the consent agenda that require any additional discussion?
If I can just have one moment, thank you.
Oh, yeah, I have no...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to pull. I just had a really quick question for our city manager. The actuarial services, is the cost that we are being presented with, does that include their presentation at the impasse hearing?
Yes, it does.
Okay. That's the only question I had.
That was it. Anyone else? Okay, then, if there's no further discussion on the consent agenda, I would open the consent agenda up to the public. Does anyone care to comment on the consent agenda at this time? Yes, sir.
Good evening, George Mayo, Palm Coast.
George, pull it close so we can hear. Thanks.
I would like, George Mayo, Palm Coast. I would like to pull I-8 for discussion, otherwise the consent.
Well, you're not, no. Do you have any comment? Go ahead and make your
Okay.
comment.
If I'm correct, this is concerning the floating docks that was discussed in previous meetings. And I had made the suggestion, I know our representative was just driving around and seeing what she could see from the road. I had made the suggestion that we get in contact with the sheriff's department and go out on the sheriff's boat for her safety. And this way, nobody will go unnoticed. Somebody may have a dock that you can't see from the road that will not be paying the applicable fees. So I wonder if this is included in that, for her to go out there at a time specific, work with the sheriff. Everybody would be safe. They would take care of her safety, and we would have a complete and accurate count of the floating docks that we have. Make sure everybody pays for their fair share. We're worried about people paying for their fair share at golf courses. If somebody can afford a boat, they should pay for their fair share for a floating dock.
Thank you for your comment. Any other members of the public want to comment on the consent agenda at this time? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to find out about number 10, what it actually means, approving a grant, which will be great. For what type of a construction is this, number 10? I don't know what it's all about.
Staff, can you get with the resident and thank you. Any other members of the public? No. I'll close public comment, come back to the dais. I'm going to ask for a motion regarding the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Danko to approve. Is there a second?
A second.
I have a second from Councilwoman Hyder. Any further discussion?
No, I think Mr. Mayor brought up a good point for patrolling. I think any time that we can work with our sheriff's office, I think that should be investigated. I think that was a great idea.
Agreed. All in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed?
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We now move to our final public participation. This is for discussion on any items that were not previously discussed in the agenda.
Yes, good evening, George Mayo, Palm Coast. A couple items here. I'm glad to see we have an ASL representative here. If somebody comes, like we had a full house almost tonight, and somebody's sitting in the back, them sitting so low you can't really see and appreciate what they are doing. I don't want to see them have to stand all night, but what you call a counter height chair, if somebody has, maybe provide that for them so that they can sit down, but it's easily seeable for everybody who would need it. Another thing is the camera angle I had mentioned last time. It was adjusted, so now the whole dais and everybody speaking can be seen when you're viewing at home. Recently, as we all know, our Flagler Education Department had an issue of fraud where they paid $700,000 to a fraudster, hack, whatever. The same occurrence just happened yesterday. It was announced in the news for Seminole County. They were building, their education department was building a building, and somebody filed a false claim for a payment of $1.3 million. They paid it, that money is gone. I just want to be assured, I know we have excellent people in our government, be assured that we're being looked at so something like this doesn't happen to Palm Coast. Somebody doesn't get an email and say, oh yeah, we have to pay for a skid of sand, and all of a sudden our money is gone. So I just hope that is there. And the other thing is, I know when you have meetings in third Tuesday of the month, so they start at 9 o'clock, and I've been here, and sometimes they run on, and it could run into the afternoon, that maybe you could look at the agenda and say, gee, I know this is going to be a long agenda, and possibly in between discussions for different resolutions, you could say after 3 hours, after 4 hours, you take a 15-minute break for everybody concerned. I know things can, sometimes you can't predict it, but if you see you have, you've gone 3 hours or so, and you got a lot left on the agenda, you can just say, okay, let's take a 15-minute break appropriate for not only you, but for the audience also. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else, final public comment?
Every 4 hours, mandatory standing calisthenics. I think that would, got a thumbs up for Mr. Mayo.
Good evening again, Karina, Seminole Woods resident. Thank you for letting me know about the flood insurance, but I will also know how much is everything in your home worth to all of you, because flood insurance doesn't cover all that. They cover structure and floor. So please, do it right. Don't let our homes flood. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else in the public want to make a comment at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I will close public participation, the final one, and we now move to discussion by City Council of matters that were not on the agenda.
I have none.
The only thing that I have is I just want to send prayers out to our Deputy First Class Stamps. He was in an accident on his motorcycle, I think coming from St. Johns County, was sideswiped, I believe, and spent some time in the ER, so I believe he's doing okay, but just sending out prayers and thoughts to him and his family for a quick recovery.
Well, thank you for that.
Seconded on that. Also, great events this past weekend, the Little League opening celebration, then also the small business event. Good stuff.
And I did bounce the pitch.
I saw a strike.
Appreciate that. It was truly wonderful to see so many young, smiling faces surrounding the ball field. More importantly, to see children and parents, families engaged together doing something that they all liked in one place at one time. Very encouraging for me for the future to see, that relationship, that bond happening in front of us. So a moving experience. All right, with that, I would ask City Attorney, do you have any comments left for this evening? City Manager, any final comments for this evening?
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. Then with that, I would ask for a motion for adjournment. I have a motion from the Vice Mayor, second from Councilman Clufus.